This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, welcome everybody. Marion County Commission special meeting. This is the purpose of the special meetings to interview. We're going to go into executive session for 8 minutes to prepare for the interview. So I move we recess into executive session in order to conduct an employment interview for the Department of Aging Director position pursuant to KSA 75-4319B. Item 1, personal matters, non-elected personnel with the board. Interview panel, which includes Dinah and Tina, for 8 minutes until 11:25.
Second.
A second by Commissioner Dalkey, with open session to resume in this room following the closed session. As part of that motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Motion carried 5-0.
Would it be okay to allow Gayla in if she
Yes,
wants?
Yes.
and if Gayla arrives also.
Okay.
I'll
Okay,
her
thank
into
you.
executive session.
Perfect.
We'll be back at 11:25.
Who was older, a birthday
This
party.
conference will now be
That
recorded.
could be on the.
Okay, we are out of executive session. No decisions made. When the should we go ahead and go into executive?
Just a minute.
Okay.
You can if you want to, and then I can send them in as soon as
Okay,
they.
that'll work. I move that we recess into executive session to conduct an employment interview for the Department on Aging Director position pursuant to KSA 75-4319B. Item 1, personnel matters, non-elected personnel with the board, the interview panel, and the applicant present for 30 minutes until 12 o'clock, with open session to resume in this room following the closed session.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gehring. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried 5-0. We will be back at 12 o'clock.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, we are out of executive session. No decisions made. We need another 5 minutes. So I move that we recess into executive session to conduct an employment interview for the Department on Aging Director position pursuant to KSA 75-4319B. Item 1, personnel matters, non-elected personnel with the board. Interview panel and applicant present for 5 minutes from 12:01 to 12:06, with open session to resume in this room following the closed session.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Dalkey. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried 5-0. We'll be back at 12:06.
Door when you need me to go away.
Nope.
Nope. We're not gonna let you go yet.
Okay.
Put the council thing down.
This conference will now be recorded.
We're out of executive session. No decisions made. I'd like to go back in for 10 minutes to discuss the candidate. So I move that we recess an executive session to discuss employment interview for the Department of Aging Director position pursuant to KSA 75-4319B. Item 1, personnel matters, non-elected personnel with the board, interview panel, and Tina for 10 minutes from 12:08 to 12:18.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Becker. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. Motion carried 5-0. Back at 12:18.
This
We all
conference
have a
will now
nice
be
day.
recorded.
Okay, we are out of executive session. No decisions made. We'll adjourn the special meeting and then come back for a regular meeting at 12:30.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Again, opposed say nay. Motion carried 5-0. We adjourn. We'll be back in 9 minutes for regular. What? Public.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, we'll begin with the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome everybody to the April 17th Marion County Commission meeting. Are there any public comments? If you're online and you have a public comment, unmute your microphone. Not seeing any?
No.
Move into agenda approval. We would like to take a 10-minute recess and come back in at 12:40.
Are you going to have, potentially have an executive
Yes.
session after that and then move administrative?
Yes. We'll move administrative to the end. Road and Bridge will not be here today. Actually, let's make our recess for 5 minutes and then come back and we'll do, let's see if we can do a 5-minute executive at that point. And then we can get back on track at 12:45. It'd be a personnel executive.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have motion and a second for the adjustments to the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. I'll declare a recess. What did I say, 5 or 6 minutes? 5 minutes. Be back at 12:37, and then we'll do an executive for 5. So 5-minute recess.
Goes where it's shut off, but K-State, it's all cosmetic.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
It was being recorded before, but there
This
was no
conference will
sound.
now be recorded.
Okay, recess is over. Commissioner Dalkey would like to go into an executive session on personnel. I move that we recess in executive session in order to discuss personnel hiring pursuant to KSA 75-4319B. Item 1, personnel matters, and elected personnel performance with the commission and Tina for 5 minutes. Brad, you can sit in if you'd like.
Yeah.
For 5 minutes, 12:40 to 12:45. Resume back in this room following the closed session. Second by Commissioner Becker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried 5-0. Be back at 12:45.
5 minutes.
Conference will now be recorded.
Okay, we are out of executive session. No decisions made. We have the sheriff and jail administrator. We're ready.
He's talking right now. The sheriff is listening. He's good. Jim's coming in.
This first, and then you guys next. I don't even want to ask.
You even get sugar at the meeting today.
Is it Blue Shirt Day?
Yes.
No kidding.
Yeah. I didn't get that
Randy
message.
did.
I didn't get the message yet.
Randy, we were left out. I got your.
Great, Jeff. We'll talk about it today. So,
Correction officer.
Yes.
Gotta wear the blue.
Yeah. I think it's a conspiracy, you know?
You usually wear blue.
Well, yeah, no, he just switched to black like last week. This is kind of the way it's been going. So I wanted to talk to you guys, May 7th to the 14th this year is National Corrections Officer Week. Last year was the first year I kind of did this to recognize my folks. So I was coming back to see if we could do it again and get them some recognition.
Absolutely.
I figured it up on average, my jailers work almost 2,200 hours a year in jail. If you figure it up, that's almost 90 days. It's right at 90 days a year they spend in jail. You know, so granted they get to go home and eat.
Yes.
But still, you know, so like Tammy, she's been moved 12 years, so she got about 4 to 3 years of jail time put in. So, you know, I guess if she'd ever get in trouble, maybe we can see if we can give her a little bit of
Time served.
Time served.
Time served. There you go.
But so it's just like to recognize my folks.
All right. Can I read it?
Sure, please.
Put my glasses on, maybe do a little better. The proclamation reads, whereas National Correctional Officers Week was first proclaimed on May 5th, 1984 by President Ronald Reagan when he signed Proclamation 5187 to recognize the men and women who work in jails, prisons, and community corrections across the country. And whereas in 1996, the U.S. Senate officially changed the name to National Correctional Officers and Employees Week, recognized the first week of May. And whereas correctional officers, also known as detention officers, are dedicated to safeguarding residents in Marion County and ensuring public safety. And whereas these dedicated men and women daily put their lives on the line and perform very difficult tasks that can be dangerous as well as frustrating. And whereas correctional and detention officers are responsible for supervising inmate conduct and behavior to maintain security within the facility, while promoting positive behavior, attitudes, and skills within the inmate population to reduce recidivism and promote successful reentry into the community. Whereas correctional officers and detention officers deserve our show of respect and an increase in public awareness about their vital role in our community. Whereas correctional and detention officers strive to maintain a safe working and living environment inside the facility, often in the face of significant challenges and dangers, and our community recognizes the important work and sacrifices that corrections and detention officers make each day to protect the citizens of Marion County. Whereas this week has been set aside to recognize our correctional and detention officers for their professionalism, hard work, dedication, and efforts to protect those in their custody and the public safety. Now therefore, the Board of Marion County Commissioners do hereby proclaim May 7th through 13th, 2023, National Correctional Officers and Employees Week in Marion County, Kansas, and encourage all citizens to join in honoring and recognizing our detention officers and employees, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered dedicated service to the community, remembering those correctional professionals who have made their ultimate sacrifice, as well as to those who continue to face the daily dangers and challenges in our nation's jails and prisoners. So proclaimed the 17th day of April, 2023, by the Board of Marion County Commissioners, Marion County. I would make that motion to approve the proclamation, second by Commissioner Dalkey. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Motion carried 5-0. We deeply appreciate the work of you and your employees.
We appreciate that. Also, I'd like to invite the commissioners, May 10th, I'm going to be doing a dinner for the staff, so you're all welcome to attend. Great.
May 10th?
May 10th, at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock?
Yep.
Can you put that on the calendar, Tina, to remind us?
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, I would really like to be there.
Thank you.
Send cupcakes.
I guess. Come on.
I just looked at it, for this year, we're averaging 16.
16.
As high as 22, as low as 11.
Again, a tremendous job.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate your employees and you for all you do.
Appreciate it, and I will forward that to them as well.
The dispatchers and the jail people, I mean, they're probably the two entities within our system that get very little thanks, and they're
Yes.
there every day, and they're behind the scenes. You know, my guys get the notoriety out on the road that, you know, we get the 5 minutes of fame and then we dump them off and here you go. You know, and for the amount of people that we deal with every day inside of our facility, and we don't have the problems, is huge. I mean, that's, if you took it on an average, it would be probably an unbelievable average, but we don't have that a large amount of use of force or issues inside of the jail. So thanks to those guys very much, at least since I've been there.
Along those lines, I want to apologize to dispatchers. We missed National Telecommunications Correctional Week, I believe it was last week. And the dispatchers do an incredible job as well. And I apologize for not getting the proclamation and recognition out to them. As you well stated, they are there every day.
I'll let them know that was stated.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Jimmy, thank you
very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. You guys ready for the next round?
Let's bring the next one.
All right, guys, come on in.
Would you mind putting your information here, please?
Oh, you can say that. That one, wow. Oh, I agree. I
Sorry.
better go up there, right?
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Tina, do you
You can start.
Okay. All right. I've brought these group of guys in. I've had a lot of sit-down talks with Mr. Lyle Lepke here. We have a growing issue. That's been an issue for a while in Marion County with an individual's fence or cattle getting out of their fences.
Yes.
I'm kind of here thinking that maybe it was time for us, as the sheriff's office and the commission, to step up and help our landowners and our taxpayers.
Yes.
Maybe do a fence inspection on a couple of pieces of property. I told them that I would represent them here. I would like Lyle to do some talking here.
Yep.
Lyle, if you'd change my spots here so they can hear you over the microphone.
Well, first, thanks for listening to us.
Yes, thank you, Lyle.
On one hand, it's, I hate to have to spend time talking about these kind of things, because these are things that good neighbors and people in the community ought to be taken care of without it being brought to you all. But there's a point to where negligence on one side doesn't help us take care of the problem as a community. So it's significant enough that I think it becomes a liability issue for the county. It's one thing for it to be a property issue and concern for us of our own protecting our own property. It's another issue, I think, for it to become a liability issue for the county. And I have also talked to this individual's insurance company this morning, telling them that they had a liability issue. So hardly know where to start. I've kind of told this story to myself about 7 times before I get here. But this isn't like Sheriff has said, it's not an issue that's been here just 6 months or 1 year, or it's been a long time coming. I mean, 10 years ago, I could sit at the coffee shop and hear the people to the west of me talk about the cattle roaming the country. Once he started buying property out towards me, I knew it was going to become my problem. And I can remember when I had a new fence, Dad and I built a new fence on one of our sections of grass or quarters of grass, and he specifically told me, well, I don't need a fence on my side because you have a fence on yours. The cattle roam the roads, you know. I hit one of them the other night. The issue last fall, I mean, he owns some ground across the creek from us. Dumps 150 to 200 head on acres that don't need to handle that many numbers. Expects them not to cross the creek. Now on his land, he expects them to cross the creek. On my land, they weren't gonna cross, right? Well, within a day or two, there's 40 to 60 head on the wheat field. They've eaten up 10 or 12 bales of hay. You contact them, gets all excited. They bring cowboys and trucks and horses out and run across our property like we never would and hustle them in. The issue this fall kind of went away through the winter until now in spring. It's hard to keep cattle in this time of year. It's the worst. And I'm going to say the first. I mean, Larry doesn't have cattle now. He has. There's a few other neighbors that were going to come. Some of them are a little intimidated because we're talking about somebody that's reckless. You don't know what the repercussions are going to be. So not everybody wants to stand up and say something at this point because we don't know what can happen. I guess I'm up for the fight. But anyway, I'll be the first one to say my cattle get out. Anybody that has livestock, they're going to get out. Mine get out more than I want. Dad has had some cattle out this year that weren't fun. We couldn't keep them in. He's taken out a half mile of hedge. He's building new fences as we speak. I was told by this fellow Friday, he said, well, you remember your cattle have been out too. And I said, yes, sir. Mine have been out, and I got them in the same day, and I built a brand new fence. I've probably built 13 miles of fence within the last 15 years, and I could build 13 more. You cannot get down. You cannot do it fast enough. I cannot show you a quarter-mile fence that he's built. Puts up an electric fence, lets it lay in the dirt, and when you say something about his cattle out, he'll say, well, I don't know if that fence is hot or not. Well, of course it's not hot. It hadn't had a live battery on it. It hadn't been pulled out of the dirt for 10 years. We have 5 acres, and I probably don't need to take the time to show you pictures. You can see what's going on here and stuff. But we have 5 acres on one side of the creek that we basically abandoned because he turns his cattle on his side. Our 5 acres is there, and they just obviously are going on our 5 acres. Well, I had 30-some bales of hay there that they were starting to eat, so I have to move my own hay to keep them out. So in the last month, I've got a wheat field of 60 acres on the east side of the creek. His cattle were coming over on the wheat, and I sent a message finally about 3 weeks ago that said, you got cattle on the wheat field. Nothing done about it. Pretty soon it grows from 2 head to 4 head to 6 head to 10 head. And wheat this time of year to a cow is like meth to an addict, and you can't keep them out. Well, his comment was to me the first time finally was, well, they'll usually go back in when they got out. And so I'll run them off, and I've got a broken grill from running them off. I'll run them off, they'll come back, you know, within an hour after being run off. And then I'll come back the next day and see where he's driven across my wheat field with pickups and 4-wheelers to run them off, but then they come back because all he's done is run them off, and once they're run off to him, that's good enough. I don't drive across my wheat field with my trucks. I don't know why it's all right for him to do that. You know, we've got between that creek and that 68, there's the creek, there's the 60 acres of wheat, and then on the other side we have 60 acres that's a deer refuge. My brother likes to hunt. I like to if I have time, but I don't get to very much. But we've shot deer in there that are 9.5 years old. And that's very rare. They don't get that old. But the reason they get that old is because we leave that place alone and they stay there. Well, it's been a zoo these last few years because the cattle run through there. My brother will sit in his deer stand and he'll text me or call me and say, well, I can't hunt tonight because the cows have knocked over the feeder, they've eaten up the corn, and I've got 15 cows standing around me. And yet, you know, Larry will say here too, you know, his answer to the problem is, well, just sell me your land. That's the answer. Just sell, I'll bully you enough until you're tired of it and sell me your land. I told him the other day, he was planting corn across the road from the wheat field Friday. And I went down there and took pictures of 7 cows on 2 calves on the wheat. I got him off the tractor and I said, are those your cows or are those my cows on the wheat? He said, well, I think they're mine. I said, well, if they're yours, get them off. If they're mine, I'm going to shoot them. And he said, well, we might have to shoot them. He says, I don't know how to get them off. Well, you know, there's a difference also of the problem of the kind of cattle. If I go out there today with a 4-wheeler and a sack of cubes and shake it, my cows will follow me to the state line. They like me. When you drive out there, I was out there going to take pictures last night and the cows were in the wheat and I snuck out of the trees because when they see you, they run, right? They're like deer themselves. And all of a sudden they were running and I thought, what I didn't, they didn't see me yet. Well, here Dad had pulled in on the other side. So he pulled in with his truck and they were running into the trees and I'm trying to catch some pictures. He owns these cattle because nobody else wants them. I mean, they're cheap, they're rangy, they're wild, and they are hard to catch. I don't know how to get them out of there either. But they're in there and they're like, I mean, so, I don't know specifically what I'm asking of you all. I don't know what the answer is for you all here either, except for somehow I want to bring up, I mean, because like I said, I've got an issue with a property issue and protecting my crop or my property or my little deer refuge that I don't believe I should have to try to fence everything I have. I got enough fence to build where my cattle are. I don't put fences up in some of these places because I do want the deer to have free range to run and go so we have a place. I don't believe I should have to spend all my energy building fences to keep his cattle out. On the other hand, I think there's a liability issue for you all again as to your property and the people running up and down the road. I mean, I could be here, I could get a call that mine are out now and somebody hit mine on the road too. But if I find out mine are out, I'm leaving here and I'm gonna go get them in. And I'm gonna still be building fences as fast as I can. But we somehow have to have some kind of a regulation or some kind of control. Somebody's gonna get hurt. Yes. Something's gonna happen. And I've talked with his insurance company this morning. I've told him the same thing. I wish Larry would speak a little on to, you know, I think I've told you a few of the things that got told to me.
I think that the statement that I really am concerned about more than anything, and I think it's a bullying tactic, is the statement when another landowner comes to him and says, hey, your cattle are on my property. And he looks at that landowner and he says, I just look at that as that's land I haven't bought yet.
That's what he told me.
Well, that's what he told me, yeah, and
That's
he wired the fence down between me and him so the cattle could go back and forth one winter. And I didn't bring them with me, but I have pictures of that, what he did, you know. And when I questioned him about it, he said exactly what Sheriff said here. I just haven't bought that property yet, you know, so.
And then I've got another individual over on the west side of the county. He flat told this man, and here's what we're gonna get into. He told him, he said, if one of my girls hit one of your cows on the road, the best thing you can do is drive to the sheriff's office as fast as you can and throw a brick through the window. Because he said, I'm coming after you.
Well, that's my fear is what's gonna happen is there's gonna be an accident.
I told his insurance company this morning that when somebody gets killed on the road, when there's 50 to 75 cows up and down the Highway 50 or something, I said Devon James or somebody like that's gonna have a heyday with this, because there will be a lot of us out here saying what was bound to happen.
Yes, and it's not the first time.
Yeah.
The history.
I mean, I had other neighbor that was gonna be here today, and I didn't get to hear from him, but he talked about, he said every day that I would drive to go do chores south of Highway 50, there's cattle out there out of this one hole in the fence. And he goes and he says, I finally got tired of chasing them in. I didn't think it was my job. He said, so I just called the sheriff's office every day. This sheriff's office has got plenty of things to do than worry about just going up and down the road to see if his cattle are out.
Yeah, I'm gonna interrupt you.
Yeah.
We've discussed this, Jeff's brought this to us, and we need that though, Lyle. Jeff needs it as a report so that we're not just going out and picking on somebody. We have a reason to do that,
Yeah.
so.
And that's why we have started to say, we're just gonna be calling in more often because we want it on record.
Yes, call in every time.
As to, you know, and yet, as Dad and I discussed this morning, I said, so Randy's out I told him about these cattle Friday, and he was across the road planting corn. They were in my field. I left, he went back to cut or plant corn. And I told Larry, I said, if it was me, I'd have got off the tractor, got the cattle in, taken care of it long before I got my other work done. But no, let's plant corn. That was Friday, the cattle are still there.
Right.
There's been no attempt to get them out. There's been there's no reasoning, there's been no effort to make them, to get them out.
Yeah.
And if he gives me permission even to shoot those 4, tomorrow there'll be 7 more. The next day there'll be 3 more. When do I quit? And then when does it happen on my side then?
Right. The sheriff has brought this to our attention a couple months ago, as Commissioner Dalkey said. We've been working with Brad. Brad's been working on trying to come up with some regulations, some rules, whatever we can fall back on to give the sheriff some authority to do something to protect landowners like yourself.
Yes.
So I'm going to turn it over to you, put you on the spot.
Well,
What can we do?
I'll bring one other thing up that I've thought about, is the issue, the problem with this has been there's been no repercussions.
Yes.
It doesn't cost anything.
Yes.
He doesn't drive down the left side of the highway, right? Because that'd be a bad deal, right? If some things happen if you drive down the wrong side of the road, he pays his property tax, because if he doesn't, something's gonna happen.
Yes.
But there's been no repercussions to my cattle running everywhere on everybody else's place. Right now, everybody's been just left it alone, or it's all gone away. So until it costs something, nothing's gonna happen until it costs something.
There's some kind of repercussion for a habitual when it comes to a trespass. Because I mean, this is a habitual trespass.
Yeah, but it's wheat now, it's bales of hay, it's, they stand and rub on the hay, and some of that hay, I've got, about 130 bales of corn stalks out there. I've got a guy gonna come out and hopefully pick up yet next week. But he ain't gonna like it if half of the wrap is rubbed off of it. It just, It just, yeah, so.
I think we have to be careful though on the habitual trespass to make sure that that isn't a law that's set forth for the human and not for the mobile.
Owner though.
Owner, yes.
Yeah.
I think personally, it doesn't answer the problem. Now, first, I think we need to do a fence view. That's set forth, number one, I think we ought to do. But he's still talking about 60 acres of wheat that I don't know how far you're from jointing on your wheat yet, but.
I don't know either, you know, it was so dry and so slow, and now this rain's really gonna change some things, but,
I mean,
you know, anybody, when it's scrubbed down this short right now, the head's already below the joint. I think we've had, you know, there's probably, I'm gonna say a third of that 60 acres will not head.
Yeah. So, you know, you look at the open market now, I don't know what the wheat price is right now, but that's pretty detrimental.
And like I say, that's why I made some contact with his insurance
Mhm.
company today, because my crop is uninsured.
Mhm.
So my insurance company for the future still does not have anything to do with this crop. So I have made contact with his insurance company, and we will see how that turns out. But then it becomes all the other things that have gone along with that through the rest of the land that you just.
What is your authority right now, Jeff? You got a complaint right here today, Friday and Sunday, Saturday and Sunday, the same cows are out. What can you do?
So as it stands right now, I'm like, wow, I don't wanna go drive across Lyle's wheat, right, to put them back in. As far as authority goes, on the roadway, they're not on the roadway. I can't really enforce anything because of the roadway. Now, I could probably go enforce a simple trespass on the livestock. But again, I don't have the manpower to be putting, I mean, I can enforce a trespass, but it doesn't stop the problem. I'm after the root of the problem. Honestly, what I'd like to do is somebody go out and adjust the wheat, and I would like to charge him criminal damage to property on his wheat field, but I don't know, I'm gonna have to visit with the county attorney on that one. And I think he should be solely liable for the criminal damage to this man's property through his livestock.
Absolutely.
And again, I've said it from the beginning, and it doesn't change from a bully to a drug person or anybody else. We can throw all the laws at them we want. They don't notice us until we start hitting them in the pocket.
I would think that just the statements that have been made that I don't own your property yet has a malicious intent to it, that there should be some kind of.
And I wish that we'd have been here at one time when, this is probably 3 years ago, when Larry's fence was tied down. But there, to me, is malicious and almost criminal damage when you're tying a fence down so my cattle can go back and forth.
But I think we need to be careful about how we approach it. Because you need to have some kind of notification to him. He needs to be known that this commission and the sheriff's office is putting him on notice. We are gonna come out and check your fences. We are gonna drive you. We are gonna send you a letter. We are gonna basically start forcing you to take care of the animals, and if you're not, then this animal here, this board, needs to say, okay, sheriff, now it's your turn. And then I'll take care of it. I will start hiring cowboys, and I will start gathering
That's,
cattle.
I know the sheriff's department has done that before.
I
Hire
was-
people to go round up cattle.
I ran that whole thing.
I know you
last
did.
time.
And what's against it today? I mean, I don't have no problem spending some money that way, if that's what it takes.
Well, the county attorney needs to weigh in on elements of this as well, because part of this is criminal.
Yeah.
Most of that is criminal. Obviously, Lyle has the civil side of it. He can sue him anytime he wants for the criminal damage, and that's going to stand up, and it sounds like there's ample proof. We are a fence-in state. A lot of people still get that wrong. If you and I share 2 pastures, but you've got 40 and I've got 40 on an 80, I build half, you build half. Some people don't understand that, and I've dealt with them in some of my land. The other is, well, no, you've got to keep them out. No. We moved past that, and we're a fence in theory. And so he has a duty to keep them in, not you keep them out.
I think where we always get hung up is the open range.
Yeah, I understand.
And I think that changed in '95, did it not?
Yep, yeah, because I've had to go through all of that, and then we've still, you know, if you look at our statutes, you'll find that they did it for this particular county. So I spent a long time going through some of that. You know, you get in the Flint Hills, we've got some different rules. So I understand where people are gonna come in and say, no, it's a fence out. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. Generally speaking, and checking like with one of the professors from KU, just to make sure I wasn't misreading that, I don't believe I am, it's fence-in state. We have progressed to such a degree that, you know, we're an ag state in terms of farm ground being producing. And then we do fence right up against it with pasture and open range kinds of things. Yeah, there are some things out there in some of that part of the state that are interpreted differently, but not here.
I think the other, when it does come to fence, if my understanding is electric fence is a legal fence. So that becomes the real gray area here, is that there's like a half-mile of electric fence across the road from me. It hadn't been hot for 5 years, but it's there.
And that's it. When you look at that, and it's amazing how much research you have to do with this stuff. If you can use whatever is calculated reasonably to maintain control of the animals, the domesticated animals on the tract. So you've got, we used to use those old Super 88s that put you or I on our knees. Can you do that with a single or double wire? Yes. And is that sufficient to keep them in for purposes of your insurance coverage? Yes, if you maintain it. If you can see that it is regularly down, or it is regularly not hot, or it's not being maintained as it's supposed to be, he's got the same problem he does with you or I building a 5-wire and not keeping it part of it up.
Well, electric fence is an electric fence if there's no electricity.
That's right.
And electric fence will keep my
It's
cows
not
in.
electric fence.
It does not keep in longhorns
Yeah, who don't-
and cattle that are,
And again,
Wow.
that
or
becomes,
wild cattle that are wild as deer. I mean, that's the difference. I mean, yeah.
that becomes an issue for the trier of fact. In those instances, if you can prove up, there's no way that that's gonna work on the particular animals that you were attempting to control. He's got the same problem he does if it's fences down.
Yeah.
So what do we do in the short term?
In the short term, I mean, I still haven't, because I wanted to talk to you about it first, haven't talked with Joel for sure, but there is the ability, yes, I think, but that, I'm not gonna speak for him, for it to be certainly on a criminal damage basis. And I don't want to go beyond a certain point in terms of the representations in here, but with what I know, is that an option? Yes. Does the county get involved? Yes, but only to the extent of the parameters of control. What instructions are provided, and it's still the independent thought of the elected official who serves as the chief law enforcement officer and along with the county attorney, as to what they want to do on the criminal side. And again, on what you did in terms of calling his insurance is exactly what I would have told you to do, because on the civil side of this, even though you don't want to have to do that, it's no different than an encroachment. You know, two people in town that argue over whose a hedgerow is this. It becomes a civil matter also.
Well, we have rules in town that if somebody's dog is roaming at large everywhere, if your dog is on my property every day, I think there's some regulation to help the city police.
And that does exist in a more extended way with the agricultural community in terms of cattle, sheep, hogs. You know, the kind of damage that can be done in 15 minutes in the wrong circumstance with something that's rooting.
He
It's
himself
massive.
told me Friday, boy, if it rains, it's really gonna be bad. Yeah, you're right. It's not very good today.
Another comment that was made is fence viewing. Is there value in the commission doing a fence viewing?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's not, it stretches the parameters of what your job description is, but it is not outside the realm of, you know, the overall duty to enforce still runs through this board. It has independent authority through an independently elected sheriff. It has independent authority through a county attorney who's elected to their position as well. But we do have elements of that because of the purse strings portion of it. And so it's, you know, like roadways, that's a little clearer because that's publicly accessible. This is supposed to be on private property, but what you're doing is looking to see, are those roadways properly safety observed? It's a poor way to say it, because we've ensured as best we can that we don't have encroachment on them, whether it's, I don't care whether it's combines or it's any kind of livestock.
So we do the fence viewing tomorrow. We find the fence insufficient. What's the next step?
At that point, the first thing I'm gonna wanna do is talk to the county attorney.
Does the county attorney go to the fence viewing or just the commission, board of commissioners?
I'm not gonna speak for him. I would suggest, I guess I'll leave that to his judgment, but I would think he might want to, given that the underlying criminal damage is gonna be a direct or proximate cause of the lack of maintenance of the enclosure.
Okay. Sorry,
Does
Dan.
one of the landowners have to call for a fence viewing?
I think we just heard it.
Well, I'm just saying that,
Can
but
you
Florida
do
has
it?
to, yes.
No, I think it's a valid question. Can you do it unilaterally? Yeah, I think you can. But is it better to do it because you've got an active problem and one of the landowners has requested to do so? I prefer it.
Where would you like us to view a fence? Give us a
Section 1, Peabody Township.
Okay.
Good enough.
Can there be like a?
That's, at least our property is in Section 1, so you would be looking at property surrounding Section 1 of Peabody Township. I would believe Section 2 would be the next section to the west.
Contiguous areas around Section 1?
Yes, yeah, properties, and then, I mean, there are others, but that's where Dad and my concern
let's start.
is right now, is where we start, where the cattle are right now.
Start there. Commissioner Crowfoot.
Can we pass a law or resolution or something, it's $500 per occurrence?
Yeah,
Can we
see-
set a fine, so it'll start adding up? Not a warning,
Possibly.
I mean, $100 a head, or $500
I've
every
got-
fence is down?
I don't want to interrupt you, Dave, but on one hand, I want to show you, I want to pass around a sign that I put up. Maybe I'll just read it to you. There's a sign that I wrote that I stuck up on the yard the other day. I stuck it up about a week ago, and it says, "Notice, stray cattle with no positive ID will be gathered and sold. A fee of $100 per day per head will be charged for cattle with positive ID." My idea was, if they're stray cattle and nobody knows who they are, I can gather them and sell
Load
them.
them up and sell them.
If they can be identified, then there's a fee for them. The issue that we have again with these cattle is where, however they get bought, whatever identification they have of them, whatever tag, whatever markings, whatever they were, they get dumped in the field. I've told you, my cattle will have an orange tag in the left ear with my name on them and a number. These cattle have either nothing or any kind of identification. So you're gonna run into a fact that if something gets hit on the road, he can say, "It's not mine. Mine doesn't have my name on it, doesn't have my ID on it." So we also gotta be ready for that. It's not mine. Because he just told me Friday, when I said, "Are those your cattle or are they mine?" He said, "Well, I think they're mine." That's when I said, "Didn't get them out." Well, then it was, well, maybe we could shoot him, because maybe they're not his. So just, we've got escape route every way that, so you're gonna have an identification
But
problem
you
on
can
top of it.
find a fence, you know whose fence that is. Just go that route.
It dates back to the mid-1800s, but I've gone that far back, mid-1800s in terms of range law in various states, including Montana. And the ability to just round up cattle like that, because it was much more frequent than it is today, that they really literally were just wild cattle. And we're supposed to kind of be past that.
I had one person tell me that last year at this time, when it came time to gather cattle to go to pasture, within a 6-mile radius of his house, they gathered 100 cows. Up and down the hedgerows and through the fields, and gathered them up and took them to grass.
On this map here in the Peabody Township, it has M.H. Wilson Township Ranch. Is that who owns? I mean, is
Yeah,
the
it used to be Wilson property, then it was
Sold.
White, or the
White.
Watches.
Yeah.
Watches.
Yeah.
And that's the property. The view line would be between your property and that land.
Yeah.
Well, Randy, if they're gonna be viewing the fence there, right on the blacktop there that goes out of, I don't even know what number road that is, it goes past Fred Burns' place there.
Yeah.
60th, right on top of the big hill, Randy, mill dam there, right on the bottom of that. there's cattle out down there. I just come over that hill 3 days ago, and there was cattle right in the middle of the road, right along the ditch, right across from Curtis Cooper's there. That's the part that scares me, is somebody's gonna be topping that hill.
This is
And
a
burning.
And he did move those it was
He
2
did?
days after I put up my sign that he moved those cattle
Okay.
over to the north and east, and he said they're moved north and east, and I said, well, they're not all, because on the east road, there's one out on the road right now. And he looked at me and I said, on the road right now, I about hit a 400-pound calf, he's out on the road right now. I mean, you can, you just.
Yeah. That's a mile east of town on the road where he's at. To go off Highway 50, a mile east.
And some of this is not awful fence. I've got some fence worse than this, but my cattle have room, so they don't push fences. But when you put 150 head on 160 acres for the whole winter, they are bound to look for something to eat.
Well, when you don't feed them any hay or anything else, yeah.
Well, I guess what I'm asking
Yes.
is if there's some way that I can get the board to send him a certified letter that he has to answer to that picks up, that says basically, you are being looked at, this is a problem, and I don't know, maybe invite him in here, I don't know, but at least let him know, put him on notice.
There needs to be some pressure.
Yes, correct.
And then when we put him on
Financial pressure.
notice, that will help me do my job as
Okay.
well.
Okay. Would a commission fence viewing help?
I think it would.
Okay, because I'm ready to set it.
And I think it would help
There's a
that.
process, I'm sure, in statute
Yep.
of what you have to do to set that.
Oh, so we can't just do it?
No.
Well, we need to know what the statute says.
Yeah.
Before.
Pull it back up again.
And Dave,
I'm ready to set it.
I would be very glad to go along with you,
Yes.
because
And
I'll
that's
show
what I
you
was gonna
where these
request,
areas
that
are,
the
so that you're not
landowners-
saying where it is.
The adjacent landowners be able to go in this viewing process
Yes.
as well, so they can point out, because, I mean, he's suffered pretty good loss so
Yes.
far, and I think he should have some say in what he thinks.
I guess what I'm gonna ask of you, Lyle, is to make a request to us of a location.
In
And
writing.
I know you already talked about it, and you can
Right.
write it right down.
A meeting location,
A meeting
or a place
location
to
to
meet.
fence. Yep.
I mean, at this point, where some of this road has to be done in dry weather.
Yes.
Some of these roads are, I
Yes.
mean, there's blacktop on some sides,
Yes.
there's dirt roads on the
Yes.
other, and it's slimy down there along Drill
Yep.
Creek.
Yep.
But my initial, where the wheat field is in particular at this point would be on 70th. Maybe the best location for me to say, see that low water bridge is on that west end,
Yeah.
but 70th and
Quail Creek.
Remington.
Quail Creek.
Quail Creek.
Is that on the east line of section 1?
East line, Remington. Section
Remington's
one.
on the east side
Yep.
section.
Section 1, here's Quail and here's Remington, the yellow line. That's your east side over there. This is there's the creek right there. Here's the-
Yeah, I'm just trying to see whether we should be on Quail or Remington for a meeting actually. It doesn't matter.
This line here is one of those.
Just double checking. Everything else is partitioned, so.
I was able to read this map.
Yeah. 29-201, you can do it.
This is 60th coming out.
Okay, so we can go ahead and set a date, time,
There's-
location.
There's Mill Dam right there.
Yeah, see, this is mine now too.
No notice.
This one?
No,
Yeah,
I'm
this
just
is
looking
mine
at it
now.
right
Oh,
here.
okay.
Board of County
So,
Officials,
so
East
I-
County, the
yeah,
state,
so
or their
he's
designee
here,
shall be
he's
fence
here,
viewers.
he's here.
These
Oh, okay.
township
So
will be
I would
joining
say
the
if we
action taken
stop
by the
and meet
board
up
pursuant
here.
to 29-201,
Yeah,
which
the old
will
corner.
Yes.
That old corner, that's
Yeah,
what it
shall
is.
require a majority vote of the
If
board
we start up there, I mean,
commissioners.
actually, my
If the
wheat, the
board
wheat
appoints
field's down
designees
here.
to act as fence
Yeah,
viewers,
the low water bridge
any
is gonna be
recommendation of
right.
such
But if we
designation
wanna
shall not be
call this a
effective
meeting
unless
spot,
approved by a
okay.
majority of the county
We can
commissioners.
Intersection of Remington and 70th.
70th. Remington and 70th.
Remington and 70th.
Remington.
Where the meeting spot would be.
Okay, would tomorrow morning work for the commission?
It's muddy.
Oh,
I don't-
it's
well,
No,
Dad,
you're
you
not
guys-
muddy now.
Yeah, Dad
No.
drove it last night.
Yeah, we drove.
Yeah, we can go.
You got that much rain?
In 70, I think in 70, you wouldn't have driven that, I mean,
Yesterday.
I had just short of 2 inches.
The mud roads are all dry, Lyle, you won't, unless you wanna drive out, I bet you can
I know there's a
drive.
puddle or two. I didn't take my good truck in last night because there was some puddle of water too sitting there. That Remington kind of has a low spot or two. But yeah, we could do it tomorrow.
You'll be
I
fine.
think there'll be probably requirement
I-
notification.
yeah, there's
I think there is, before you have the fence you have.
Before you have the fence,
Just
meeting,
computer
it's
time.
for all these guys can be together.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I take one, because I did one, I've done one.
I understand, I appreciate it.
Just a
Yeah.
viewing.
But if it's not,
Take two guys.
if we don't have to send
I
a
think it needs
certified
to be
notification.
the commissioner
Can we
who resides.
review it for the county right
If you
away?
stay on
That's
the
the way we- that's the way we did it
They
before.
needed to check.
See, there was a time, Randy, that he wanted to work from that closing some of those roads.
Mhm.
That way he could just call them.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was him.
Commissioner Mueller, have you got clarification?
I'm still working on it.
Okay, I'm just saying that, I think there's a lot of us think that we need to have notification to the other landowners and stuff before we do that.
Take a week to
This
get
is the one I'm doing.
I don't think we can just go out
Week
there
I've
from
also
now.
got Bob Casson, who's
without
my professor,
notifying
he's the one that
both
wrote
sides
the
of
law.
the parties.
Oh, yeah.
Well, as far as the cattle in the wheat right now, they're not gonna be there tomorrow. Yeah, I'm just telling you, they're not gonna be there. I left them there Friday, I left them there last night, so that they'd be here this meeting, they won't be there
So I
tomorrow.
better take my Jeep out when I go home, huh?
All right, I'm sorry, I was wrapping up.
I'm just thinking, we have to notify people, isn't there a proper procedure for this?
Well, the statute, and again, that's what we were just talking
Right.
about. I'm gonna double check, Bob Casson wrote the law on this, and he was one of my professors at law school. So I'm gonna double check all of that as well, but after 29-201, everything thereafter does not talk about the process at all.
Oh, no.
And so, but it would seem logical, and so I wanna go ahead and check that, so I'd like at least a couple of days, even if it was Thursday, like we just talked about, if we had to notify, we could go around and just do a personal service to these folks.
Okay. I would make a motion that the commission do a fence viewing at 70th and Remington at 9 AM on Thursday,
I'll be
April
gone.
20th. What?
I'm out of the area.
Okay.
I'm sorry, could you repeat your motion, please?
A fence viewing on 70th and Remington, 9 AM Thursday, April 20th.
Second.
Okay, second, Commissioner Dalton. I know you will not be able to be there.
I've got a meeting. I'm sorry, I'm still late morning, so.
talking some
I'll
rain this
attend.
week.
That's I've got one at noon. And
That's
I'll try to
was
squeeze
later in
in
the week.
between the others. But with Commissioner Crowfoot, would you be able?
Thursday,
Yes.
as far as I know.
Commissioner Herring? Okay, well, we,
Unless you can do it earlier,
we
maybe.
could have 8 o'clock?
And I'll check on that and get with you.
Well,
If you need to set it,
That's what I
set
was
it.
just looking at. If you
Yeah.
have rain, you
Right.
You won't go
if
there
you'll have
Wednesday.
rain, you will postpone.
Right, absolutely.
Looks like rain's on the schedule for 10 days or so.
Wednesday's last hour.
So Wednesday night.
Slim.
On my phone, I got rain 30% Wednesday
Yes.
and 40% Thursday.
Let's just set a time and then if we gotta
Yep,
postpone.
yep. I've set my time for 9 AM Thursday, April 20th. If weather does not allow, we will postpone. That's the motion. Is there a second? Second, Commissioner Dalkey. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried 5-0. Brad, you will research notification. Will you reach out to the county attorney and invite him? What other actions do we need to take?
When do we need that by? Your
Yeah.
work? I mean, because.
Tomorrow, I assume.
Yes.
I knew it was gonna.
Or this afternoon.
Or better yet, now.
Now.
I understand that.
We can take a 5-minute recess.
Yeah.
Actually, I would like to take a 5-minute recess.
Might be a good idea.
I think it will be. I think we will do that. It's free to do that. Anything else on the fencing issue for today?
I think we're good.
I know Brad has put in a lot of work, and I've looked at other counties and their laws and their policies, and I know there's a lot of pushback from a lot of the cattle organizations on it. Because there are people just like you and I, we do have cattle.
Well, that's my point, is I wanna make sure that we protect the cattle owners as well as myself. I don't, like I say, mine get out.
Yep. Yep.
We all have cattle that get out.
But you make the effort.
Will it-
This is habitual.
Would it So every time, like now, the other day when I saw those cattle out on the bottom
Yes.
of the hill,
Yes.
I hate to bother people.
I know.
Do I call you every
Yeah, you call
time?
the sheriff's office.
Every
Yes,
time.
Every single time.
Because I don't want you to say, well, quit it, we know they're out, there's nothing we can do about it.
I've already instructed my dispatchers that you take every single.
So do
call.
I call 911 or do I have a
Just
special?
call the 2144 number.
You can call either one, but yeah.
Yeah.
2144?
Yeah,
Okay.
and if you don't remember that, just call 911, tell them what you got.
Easiest way to remember it is you have to be 21, own a 44.
You called it a few times.
Yeah, you have to be 21 to own a 44, and that's how you remember 2144.
And that number will get you to the dispatch.
Yeah,
and bring-
it's the same number if you call
Well,
911.
I've known you since a kid, and I didn't know you was that intelligent.
I know.
You really did a great job there. That's pretty neat.
I got a way of remembering numbers. You ought to know that.
Very good. Well, we
I'd like to say one thing, can
Yes.
I?
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been around a little while.
Yeah.
More or less 40 years ago when this person started gathering or having cows, livestock, lives west of me. And then already there was an issue with a neighbor, and I recall by the paper records that the county commissioners here went out to assess the fence which they were complaining about. Now, I may be wrong, but I think I remember that. But my point is, that's when this all kind of began, 40 years ago. Do you want to let this go another 40 years? It's been escalating ever since. Every year it gets worse. So we gotta stop that thing somehow.
The cattle that, and again, you don't need more stories, but when the fence was tied down so the cattle could go on Andrews, they went on in at Larry's mom's place and stomped around. It was a muddy year. Stomped around on her yard. Ended up a mile north on the dad's yard.
Yeah, they come up to my yard.
He started gathering cattle.
I pinned them up, took them to a pasture way off of, that was his, just dumped them out there. Get rid of them.
He
Far
first
enough
says,
away
I'm
from
gonna
me.
do something with them, and I said, you're gonna have repercussions that you won't like. So don't do anything drastic with that. So he said, well, he just took them to another pasture far enough away that they wouldn't come back to his yard. Put them on his property. He'd have no idea where the hell they got there or where they were. But,
I've known your dad a while too. He didn't teach you that 2144, did he?
No, he
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you for coming
Thank you.
in.
Well-
It is a terribly dangerous situation for the county. and
Yeah,
It's terribly damaging for you as landowners.
So-
We've got to handle it.
Could you herd them all
Thank you very
sometime?
much.
If
Yes.
he says they're not his, can the county actually sell them?
Yeah, on a certain time frame we can. yeah.
Bring it back Thursday.
I hope we get rain
I
down.
do too. I'd be glad for
We
more
can
rain.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming in.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you for your help.
Thanks a lot.
You bet.
Leave my cat down.
Making progress.
Where did I leave my cat?
Yeah.
Look at man. You know I'm a little bit to be here.
That's how I do with my phone.
We're
I'll
gonna
be
take
looking
a
at my
recess.
phone, it'll be in my
Put your
ear.
glasses, you have them up on top of
I
your.
just wanted to make sure if you guys need to talk to me after I left, I was.
Anything for Sheriff?
I just wholeheartedly stand behind the sheriff. If he feels the situation needs, that he needs to round up cowboys and go round up cattle, let's go do it and see what happens.
How long do we have to hold them before you can sell them?
Usually about 30 days. We'll have to hold them.
So you got a
So-
place to go with it.
You'd have to have a place to go with them.
I've already got that taken care
That's
of.
what I was gonna ask you, you probably know.
I've reached out to the owner of the El Dorado Livestock Barn. I just would rather contract with him, send the cattle there, hold them for 30 days. If they're not, if the bill's not paid for or they are claimed, then he can sell them on the auction in the name of Marion County.
Yes.
And then it can go in a.
Pay for the service.
And we can pay the bills out of that, and then we can hold the rest of the money. I think we have to hold it for a year before we can do anything with the money. Then I think eventually it goes back into the general fund.
Very good.
Okay.
All right.
Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you. 10 days.
Tina, thanks for talking me into more than 20 minutes. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks. All right. A lot of questions to be answered. Let's take a 5-minute, should we take 10 minutes?
not gonna take you longer than that, but I'm really learning as we go here. so.
Okay, let's take 10-minute, let's say recess, 1:40 to 1:50. Second by Commissioner
Do I
Gary.
need a-
Do I need a motion?
You don't need a motion.
Okay, I'll just declare a recess. We will be back at 1, we're taking a 10-minute recess to get some phone calls made, and then we'll be back in session at 1:50.
Okay,
Huh? It's not an executive session, just a recess.
just a recess, all right.
He's gotta go talk to Susan.
Okay.
Will now be recorded.
Using FaceTime on his phone to that beauty.
All right, we are out of recess, not executive session, it's recess. So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, and that is the public health building discussion. I'll have Krista come up to the spot. In working on this discussion, I'd like to divide it into two different areas of topics. The first one being the location of the public health building site. And the second, if that location is approved, then we would talk about a building. There's no sense talking about a building if we don't approve a location. So if you allow me a few minutes just to give a little background and history. Marion County currently rents space from St. Luke Hospital for our public health department at $1,575.33 a month, or $18,903.96 a year. Round number $1,600, $1,900. Rental agreement has a 30-day termination clause. We appreciate St. Luke working with us. It's been a huge improvement over the previous space, but there is coming to St. Luke who will want that space. So the Marion County Commission initiated the process of finding a permanent home for public health in May of 2021. An allocation of American Rescue Plan funds was approved at that time. We closed on the purchase of 1240 commercial for $149,148 in June of 2022, with the intention that would be the public health building. Renovation costs are estimated at $693,700. Was presented in September of 2022. At that time, concerns were raised of the cost and the location, so other options were sought. The Commission, in the meantime, has looked at 8 options, 3 in Hillsborough, 5 in Marion. The current option on the table that we're looking at is 1220 East Main, the former food bank in Marion. Marion Advancement Campaign has agreed to sell for $1 if a new public health building is built at the site. The agreement has been signed, but we've not yet closed on the property. Some of the advantages of the current site: it's centrally located for the county, in the county seat, close proximity to county extension, county food bank, grocery store, and schools. It's good visibility and ease of access. A large enough lot for building and parking. So again, at this point in this discussion that I'd like to have today is whether or not that is the Commission's desire for building a site for public health. Because of the 5 commissioners, I know there's 3 very strong opinions. So have our discussion on where we would like the building site. And I was just trying to give some background. Krista, if you would like to make some comments to follow up on that.
With a new building site, it would allow for room to expand our programs, some of the programs that we've determined that we have a need for in the county. Also, it would allow for space of storage of the items that we have placed in different areas, not all in the building. We have a storage container. Also, with losing the 2 rooms at the building that we're in St. Luke, we have had to do some kind of creative rearranging of staff and supplies as well.
That's what St. Luke has taken 2 rooms back this spring.
Yeah, as of March 1st.
So I
I guess now opening the floor to discussion on location.
I think, it's in the county seat, so people come to town that do business other places.
I don't think that's even a logical answer.
And then it's on Main Street, so it's easy for people to walk to and to drive to. So
I would say that less than 50% of the people that come to the county that came 30 years ago come.
say that again.
They're all doing business online.
Okay. But the county health department has services that the personal, vaccinations, child care, the WIC program where they give you the young mother's food. I don't know that much about it, I'm just learning by osmosis, just by observing, going to things. You might say.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit on WIC. So WIC is for people who fall into the income eligibility requirements, and which is far more expansive than what you might think. And so it can be people who are pregnant, and it's also for children up to age 5, and mothers who are nursing up to 1 year. And it offers a lot of formula for babies, also food, formula for the non-breastfeeding mothers. One of the things that we like to do in WIC, or one of our things that we promote, is breastfeeding. This building would allow for a lactation room. With that, we would be eligible for some grant money that we could look toward in the future. But we don't have a lactation space. So when we have moms that come in now and maybe their child comes in and gets a vaccine, and baby's upset after vaccines and she wants to nurse, that holds up that space. We only have 1 exam room currently, and this would allow for 2 exam rooms, so we could even potentially do WIC and our vaccines concurrently at the same time, which we ran into during COVID. The other thing that I guess I would like to put out there with the ARPA funds, I know that that was designated for, COVID expenses, and I would say that the health department's efforts in COVID far exceeded any other department in the county. A new building would allow for pandemic preparation if we were to ever be in this situation again. And it was something that we thought was low risk of probability prior to pandemic, but we found out that this is, there are chances of having another pandemic. With the drive-through, I guess I should say, drive-through access would allow for vaccines, like someone who was disabled or elderly couldn't get out of their car. That was something we ran into. Same with testing. It would allow for infection control measures, such as not having a sick patient traipse through your building, go through your waiting room. It would have a separate access door where you could usher them directly into an exam room.
And also servicing the Marion and Florence and Peabody are lower income than average than Hillsborough, so there'd be more clientele in this part of the county.
What percentage of the county do we service outside of COVID?
Well, we do a lot of things other than just COVID. So foundations of public health services, so communicable disease prevention and intervention with that, so control and prevention. Pam, who's our staff nurse, when she's not doing vaccines, she's doing disease investigation, whether that's hepatitis C, which we have present in our county, or like a foodborne illness or a waterborne illness, or let's say you have a child that has a diarrheal illness that is communicable. So when we get notification of that, we may be calling a daycare to say, hey, this, or parents say this child can't go back to daycare for 14 days or however long the isolation period is, so you don't have a full-blown outbreak. Our Safe Kids Coalition, which is under Aaron Hine, that's where we do our life jackets, bicycle helmets, smoke detectors, medication disposal bags, or lock boxes. And that's, I mean, everyone, no matter who you are, how old you are, we all want our families to be as safe as possible. And that's really what public health is in a nutshell.
Take care of the younger generation.
Yeah. But a lot of our space in our health department or storages goes for those Safe Kids items. I mean, there's a lot of parents in the room, there's a lot of grandparents in the room, and that's protecting your kids' future. You know, some of the stuff that we can dispense. And maybe even great-grandparents.
Congratulations.
There's getting to be, I'm getting to know a lot of great-grandparents. That's awesome.
Our public health emergency preparedness, so that's what Marcy's position was prior, or her part of her position. That's to help, like, she was one of our main people during the pandemic, helping get all of that organized and helping streamline our activities, whether it was vaccine dispensing or setting up a clinic, I guess, a vaccine clinic.
One of the things about the mission of just health in general, probably one of the biggest contributors to bankruptcies today is the cost of health care. What's going to be one of the biggest burdens on government already is health care for people that are uninsured. Anything we can do to help our at-risk populations receive assistance, guidance, education, that's all. That doesn't just benefit that family, that benefits all the taxpayers.
And we provide services, you know, that are, you know, just not just children, but other age groups as well. Right now we're going to take a training called Matter of Balance, where we're going to work with elderly to for fall prevention. I mean, that's a big, you hear people breaking their hips all the time and then going downhill where it causes death. And so that's something new that we're going to be doing. But trying to think of other things, you know, beyond. The VFC program is one of our biggest things that we house, and that's vaccines for children. And that's where we provide vaccines to people who are uninsured, or they have an insurance plan that does not provide vaccine coverage. And then of all the state Medicaid kids aged under 19.
If I read your budget right, your budget is about $500,000 a year, approximately. Sorry, I looked at what I was looking at, and it looked like last year you received $280,000 in grants. So over half of your budget is paid by state or federal grant.
And that budget, part of it may have been a little bit misleading. The budget was originally figured, I think before I started here, that had the COVID money and it had it all lumped into 1 year's time.
Okay.
When really we wanted to space it out over the time of the eligibility.
But would it be
period.
fair to say that a third to a half of your budget comes from state and federal grants?
Yes.
Not from local taxpayer, but from state and local.
And I know when we were kind of on the topic of location and thinking about taxpayer money, we are frequently here at the courthouse to pick up things or bring bills or sign stuff. Erin Hine, that works with K-State Research and Extension on a frequent basis. If we had travel expenses, if we were in a different location, that would make our budget, you know, it would be an increase in our budget, I guess, a need for that.
So how much of our budget is mandates?
I have no idea.
And how, going forward, you can almost bet in public health there's gonna be more mandates.
Yes.
Most mandates are not funded. You need to keep that in the back of your mind. There'll be a lot of unfunded mandates going forward.
And if they're mandates, their services may have to provide.
Right, without additional funding.
but we have to be prepared to provide those services.
Right.
So if we can get a building built to service our needs into the future, wouldn't now be the time to do that?
I don't know, we're in a time of very high inflation.
Talking about taxpayer, and so this health department area served, rather than talking about the county seat centrally located. Well, I'm going to talk about centrally located, but I'm going to talk about centrally located amongst the highest population in the county, so that you have the most potential served, the least amount of travel. So if you have taxpayer funding, you need to think about how you serve the whole county, and your central base should be the least amount of miles traveled for those to get to, and then your outreach stuff needs to go to the other places. So I'm not sold on Marion just because it's a county seat. I'm draw a circle in population and stick it in the middle, whatever that is. That's where I'm at.
Know any good sites
Well, I
in
agree.
Canada?
I would agree that a public health location should gravitate to where the most potential business is gonna be. And not, I mean, the county seat shouldn't even be I mean, if that's where it needs to be, that's where it needs to be.
Right.
But in today's day and age, you have to look where the most potential use is gonna be. And, you know, I come from a part of the county that there's some use for the health department, but they tend to gravitate over to the next county, or, you know, if they're not under a doctor's care. And so, so what I hear is, how can you spend that much money on something like that? And I say, well, do you utilize it? Do you know anybody that's utilized it in your family or anything like that? And they say no, because we're not gonna drive down to Marion if we can just go to our doctor in Hillsborough or McPherson. And so that's what I get hit with. It's a whole lot different than what you get hit with, get hit with, or maybe Randy.
I mean, we're lower income here, average.
No, I think you got lower income all over the county. You gotta look at all the small towns.
Yeah.
Most of the small towns are basically low.
If you're gonna do it based on population of percentage, if you ranked it on percentages, it would probably be one of our smaller towns. That would dictate where it would need to go. If you're gonna do it on percentage of total population, that gives you a whole nother location. Tax dollars are tax dollars. You know, ARPA's tax dollars is still, we paid into the system. But to use that funding at home somewhere, it's just an effort to reclaim the taxes that we've all paid in.
Right.
And so I don't want to just not do something. But I'm not sold on the Marion location over here.
I've looked with you, we drove around and looked at another spot, and that was behind the county shop and on another person's ground. Could have been done there, but just a lot of things didn't work there. We looked in Hillsborough at the hospital over there, and looked at that. Is there a third spot that we've looked?
Clinic over there?
Well, the clinic, yeah, the clinic over there. I have not been inside of it, but I went down to it, and I've been around that building, and it's 25 foot wide, and that's what it is by 150 deep, I think. And it's about 110 of it is building, maybe 120 of it's building, something like that. Got a cement slab on back. And so I've looked just on the outside. I've been in there before, but not to look at it all the way. So I just ruled it out. I guess maybe because back when we did a basic needs assessment before any of you guys was on, we come up, at that time, the health department was in the Boron building down here. And we knew we either needed to renovate and spend like the $600,000 for that, or go somewhere else at that time. And then the needs that come out of that was the health department, the storage upstairs, get the weight out of the attic, and put a storage building up. That was the three things that we come up with, and that's why that property over there was bought, and that was what the plan was there. So that's why you've heard me be a storage building person ever since you guys have come on. But we failed to get that done so far. However, we have got some storage out here lately, with some of the sale we just had and stuff. And so, but there's still a lot of weight up there that could come out of that building, out of this building, courthouse building. So
Yes.
there's still a need there for that. It's a proven deal. Every department we have brings to us, where do I store this? I don't care. The health department's got trailers. The sheriff's got trailers. The health department's got a cube. And everybody's looking inside the courthouse. They're in other vaults, the treasurer's books. Oh, not the treasurer, the register of deeds books and things. So anyway, there's needs for that study is pretty well proved, but the health department took a turn and went from the Boron building up to where they're at now. And my disappointment with that was, at the time, the hospital didn't need it. They wanted to give it more or less, just they was happy to get some money for it. And apparently there's been new management or new change up there, so we hear that they've sent architects through, and so they're probably going to, I think it's about come outright and said that they're going to want that someday. So I think we're faced with doing something, no matter where, what, or when, we're faced with doing something. So far, other than that location right over there and building the storage building, in which we also, and this is on our property, right over here, I left room when we just designed that for a storage building and a health department building on the south end. But parking was a thing. Parking space was going to be a problem if we put that big a building up and a health department on the south end. And so we've just never tackled that, whether we would have the space for parking and all of that at that location. This location here, which is, what is it, Main Street, whatever the address is, up here where the old food bank building is, you and I went one day and looked at that building, Dave Mueller, and I personally thought that that was the best location that I'd seen so far for possibilities. We sent Krista out to come back with a plan, and she did. And there's some things that size-wise, yeah, I'd love to build a building that way for 56. I think on this one she has 5,661 square feet. But we also have the lot designed here for a driveway to go out on other people's property with this plan. Now, have you seen it, Jonah? You've seen it, everybody's seen it, but Kent hadn't today when I asked him. Kent hadn't seen it. I'll just tell you, I will not vote for a building that goes out on somebody else's property. That's ridiculous to me, because they have a change of management. They say, oh, we're going to shut your driveway off. I wouldn't do that for myself, and not one of us sitting here in this room would do that to ourselves if this was our building. I mean, it's just not, I don't know why this architect even thought of it. I'm not with that. So when Krista and I talked, the best thing that I could see I think I was there for an hour and a half or two the other day, possibility, and she's got a lot of good things designed in here with this the way it is, but you got this 10-foot setback all the way around this site here and you can't get around to the back except for this 10-foot. They might have 12 foot, the dotted line, and then you got about a space in there, probably a couple of feet, maybe something like that. So you might be able to get around that building, but you've got a lot of frontage here. I mean, to me, you're using half the building for half the lot for parking, the way it looks. I'd rather take that half a lot, use this 10 foot all the way around, and design a building maybe a little longer, maybe a straight roofed one, maybe a rectangle building or something to that effect. I don't think I can afford, out of my pocketbook or anybody's pocketbook, to have a garage that's not used for two things. I think your intentions with the garage is to keep the cars in of a night and keep them, preserve them instead of letting them sit out like we always have. I don't think I can use that garage for a drive-through. I could use it for possibility of drive-through vaccine, you know, because we could set the cars outside of it then. There's some other things in here. Conference rooms. Everybody we're talking about building, the one up there on the highway, up across the highway, we're going to have a conference room there. We're going to have a conference room here. We don't have a conference room for the commission. I mean, to meet of our public, so now we're going to have conference rooms for every location we go to. It'd be nice. I'd love to have it. You saw what we did over here at the jail. We wanted a bigger conference room when we designed that one, but we come up with a little one, and it's needed there. I'm not gonna. It's more needed there probably than a lot of places.
You can get 20 people in there.
Pretty tight.
Yeah.
Pretty tight. Yeah. But what I'm saying is, how many conference rooms we're going to build for our building when one central conference room would take care of a lot of us. I mean, if they was all centrally located. So, to me, it's, if you need my vote to vote for this building with this plan to go out on somebody else's property, it's a no vote. I'm definitely not going to accept that. I mean, I'll vote no. But if a rectangular building was designed with, you're probably going to have to move it forward some, you're going to have to use some of this front, but use some of this extra 10 foot that's already a setback for parking all the way around this building and a path around this building, and use it. Right now, I think we figured up to somewhere around 100 foot long, 90 to 100 foot long, the way you have it here.
Yeah. Somewhere
in that neighborhood of that long, and at the wide spot was pretty wide, so.
What's the setback off the street?
20, I think, is
What?
20 foot, I think.
20 feet.
That's a requirement.
Yeah, that's the requirement.
There's more than that.
In the business district? Is that in the business district?
Yeah, in Hillsborough, I got to set back 25 feet off the road.
But if that's part of a business district,
Put a
well,
building
you don't have a downtown 20 foot setback. I mean, if it just depends on the area, right, Joe?
Yeah. Depends on city ordinance.
Yeah, right. And so 20 foot still gives you 130 foot, or let's see, 20 foot off that, and 20 foot off the back. You still got 110 foot for rectangular. Lengthwise with 150, you got 143 wide, and you get 20 off each side, 43 feet off each side.
20 feet front is not ideal. I mean, you talk about the pickup. I mean, my extended cab pickup, 22 feet long.
Yeah.
You pull in there at an angle and then back out on a main street. I don't know if that's ideal.
No, this is on our property. This is not on. You wouldn't go out the street.
Okay.
This is not going out the street.
Okay.
These lots are designed for right here on the park, on the lot itself, Jonah. So, but I just would rather. This is the time to.
It would help. Just stay on point.
Yeah.
I'm trying to picture it in my head. I seen it.
I was trying to keep the discussion on location, and then we'd get into the building discussion.
Yeah, I did bring those plans as well, but until you have nailed down a location, a plan is not.
There's no use looking at a
No use in
plan.
even looking at a plan.
But to your point, because part of the location is having the flexibility to address your concern and keep the traffic on the property, that instead of an L-shaped building, it can be rectangle and still have the drive-through go around the building.
Because you could cut these rooms off and put them over here to make it.
Something, you can do something there.
It can be done.
I think it can be done.
Yes.
But then my next question is, how much am I gonna spend for that extra garage, for the conference room, for a few other things that, you know, she's got her design plan here to where she's got a utility room here for dirty
So dirty
Biohazard.
waste, so biohazardous waste, whether
biohazard,
it's
and a
needles
drive-through
or-
here on the side of the building. That's a neat thing.
So Randy, what the best thing about this was, we decided how many rooms you need, what size you need the room, so the next guy can come in and shuffle them all up and make a square building or.
And it may have to, Dave.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
If-
the next building will not be that shape.
I think this plan, initially, I think we went in with the mindset of, is this even going to fit on this space? And we found out it does fit, you know, that it fits. It may not be the right shape or the right, I guess, layout per se, but this is just the basic plan of what we could get for the money that we could spend at the time.
And parking, up front, I put in diagonal parking instead of straight in.
Be more
We have
efficient.
an in driveway and an out driveway.
And then it comes to the point is, where do you have the east side as your main entryway or the west side as your main entryway? I mean, there's kickbacks to both, because
Right.
the west side, the sun in the evening, is a pain in the rear, and the east side's pretty neat, but after dinner in the wintertime, your sidewalks freeze back up and stuff like that. So, or whether you have the front entry on this rectangular building
Well,
too.
we need to get some land, then we can get a professional architect to tell us what is correct.
Well, that's what my point was the other day. I didn't want to vote for the land unless I knew that there was a plan here that would fit that lot. That's,
The plan will fit, but it needs modified.
are you gonna pay for the extra garage in this building and that kind of stuff, or use it for just one purpose, or are you gonna take and?
Well, we'll talk to the architect, the experts let us, tell us.
What, if we go through the process
I'm a
of
salesman.
moving forward on a piece of property, we have a concept design, so we know how much can be put on it. It can all be rearranged. We can rearrange the design to keep the traffic flow of the drive-through on the property. It will still fit.
Need the room sizes.
Once we have the property and the survey and know exactly what we have, then we can massage the design, whether we remove, this has everything in it. You can remove the garage, you can remove the conference room. This has everything in it, and it fits. It can be fit to drive through on the property. But in the commission discussion on the building itself, we can always downsize.
Yeah, I have had phone calls on the size of space-wise that we looked at, they heard through the paper. That's, I've had a phone call on that's directed to the space of what.
Well, nobody's seen the design.
No, nobody's seen it, but the size, they know what 5,000 square feet is, Dave. They know that's a lot of square feet to their animal buildings and stuff like that. I mean, that's how they know that. I mean, that's very simple. They're looking at, does the health department need that much?
I think what may be misunderstood, I guess, with that whole space allocation is how much we actually utilize for storage, and that's for safety devices. Like, if you've ever been through the health department, you see how big a car seat box is, you see how big a life jacket box is, you see how big a pack and play box is. So it's not like it's just storing a decoration or something like that. I mean, it's storage of actual devices that are distributed in the county to county residents, specifically children. And I guess the reference to the size too, like I know the paper had made a reference to the size, and it kind of made it lead you to believe it was referencing it to a size of a hospital, when in actuality it was referencing to the thrift store in town. So not a hospital, not in comparison to that size, but in comparison to the hospital auxiliary, which is comparing two very different things.
I also, that's the reason why I chose this site over other sites, was because it was on Main Street. It was visible. It could be, you know, you have a nice building to the east, and older buildings to the west of this. This would be another nice building on the street that it could be a metal building with some sort of facade on the front to look just as nice as what the health department does right beside, or not the health, the fitness building, yeah. Fitness buildings beside it too. So Like I said, a metal building to me is the way to go. But a facade on the front to look nice, if that's where the main entry is, if that's what you use up there. But I think we need to go through here and put some red X's on. I've been known for the red pen for a lot of years.
Don't you need to have a budget before you start?
You probably should. Probably should. Yeah. I mean, you gotta know what the building's gonna cost.
What
to see if we can
are
afford it.
we looking at?
$1.1 million.
Yeah.
What I've said
So,
all along.
For this building, on the design, 1.2 million. You start Xing things
Plus-
out, you go to a rectangle, you've got a smaller budget.
Then you got demolition.
And demolition is included in
Lot
it.
leveling.
It's included in it. It was actually included in 1.1, but.
So is the commission willing to?
So the budget would be 900,000 rescue funds, 300,000 grants and fundraising.
Davey Head said we had $100,000 worth of parking lot already poured.
It's already poured.
Yeah.
Not if you move it forward, it wouldn't.
If we move the building, then it's gonna
We
change.
put the building on top.
But
You
it's factored into your design decisions as you move forward. Because those will be future decisions as we discuss. If we don't decide on a site, there's no use discussing the building.
And I like what you said about the visibility. I think that that's been a factor too, in people knowing where we're at. When you are on a Main Street type area, one, it's accessible to people who walk, and two, it's visible to people, so you know, they can say, I need to get my vaccine, or I need to stop in there and get my kid a bike helmet, or,
It's on the way to school,
and there's other services, that could potentially be provided being on a Main Street location. If you had a sign, your signage, we haven't, I don't know.
But I think there's some commissioners sitting here, Dave, that I don't give a, I won't say what, but I've got to come to Marion to get the service anyway, or to Hillsborough or someplace. I've got to do that, so if I want the service. So it don't make no difference whether I'm going to school, it don't make no difference whether, and that's what the people that I used to represent for a lot of years, which was all south of here, they have to come, they have to travel. Most of Dave's people, except he did have had the city of Marion on the old district, he did have that, when it was 3, had the city of Marion, and Kent's district had the city of Hillsborough, so I just know from what I hear that, but Kent, what you said online is a lot of anymore, it's some of that, but even as late as when we closed the road out here for this bridge out here, the culvert out here, why, we got a lot of comments, don't shut that road down, because that was their favorite road to come to Marion to get to the courthouse. So I know as late as 6 years ago, it was 6 or 7 years ago, it was there was a lot of people still coming to the courthouse to do business, and so like I said, I feel that's the best site that I've seen over all of them so far. And I will say that that's the best site, but I'm not real tickled with the plan of what I see.
Right. And again, that's why I tried in the discussion to separate out, let's make the decision on location, and then we're gonna have long, hard talks over a period of time about the design of the building.
with 2 or 3 different architects or engineers, or whatever they call them.
You gotta factor in what Kent said.
Yes.
1.2 at this plan.
Yep.
So we're spending all the ARPA money for one department.
No, we're spending 1/3 of the ARPA.
1/3.
Because it was 2.3 million. We bought an
Spending what's
ambulance.
left.
Spending half.
Yeah. But I'm saying we're spending what's left.
We're spending what's left.
That's what I meant.
So
Not all of it.
40% of the total allocation.
Yeah.
But as Krista said, that's really where the funds came from, or the impetus for the funds.
My other question was, I think the other guy said it, is can you put should you put it all together and make it do more for the money, do more bang for the buck. If you do that, well, don't know that this site right beside the courthouse is big enough for to take care of everything unless you went to a 2-story building.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's my viewpoint.
Yeah.
The site is good for my viewpoint, but I need another plan that's more economical
There'll
and
probably be several more.
I mean, it could be.
Well, again, that's where I come back, that whole discussion is going to be another discussion. And you have very legitimate concerns, and those all can be. I think part of what Krista's plan was to put everything in it so we can get the large number, and then you can bring out the red pen. It's a lot easier to shrink something. If you started with a small building on that lot and it looked like it fit, and then it turns out it didn't fit, then we'd really be in trouble.
Yeah.
In this case, we've got the building with everything in it, and it can work.
And I think Krista's shown that she just stated a while ago, stated she maybe more development into certain things. But on the other hand, how many of us sitting in here knows that government somebody's gonna have to tighten the reins? Can we afford that? I don't know. Government's gonna have to start somewhere. We can't keep raising people's taxes all the time.
But in this specific case, we do not have to raise taxes for this specific. If we're taken away from another potential project, I would agree with that.
We'll spend the tax dollars otherwise.
We will spend them somewhere. Okay. Any other discussion? If not, I'd move forward with a motion to build a public health building at 1220 East Main. Is there a
To
second?
purchase the land or the building?
No, to build the building.
Okay.
We've already agreed to purchase it. If we do not move forward with the building, we give the land back.
I'll second that.
You're not.
What's your, for discussion?
You're promising me the gold mine, and I'm not hearing it. I want to see it.
So you
I want
want
to see a
them in,
plan.
you want them in one.
I want to see it on this paper before I vote for it.
Then we have to go out for architect bids and stuff.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, I hear opposition to go spending any more money if we're not gonna build the building. Because we've got votes against building the building, period.
Well,
I mean, did we get the,
wasn't that what I asked last week or the week before?
we
Yes.
we can give the land back to the city if we don't build a building then?
If we don't get 3 votes to approve the building.
Let me ask you this, Dave. Did you have a plan before you built your house out here at the county lake?
Yes, I did.
Okay, then that's what I want. I want the same thing. I want a plan before I build a house. I'm not happy with that plan. I don't like that plan.
This vote is not to approve the plan.
You wanna bring us a better plan then?
Somebody can. That's above my skills.
Why not?
And that's what we will do.
It's
The
gonna
vote
cost
is on the
you
location.
$10,000 to get an architect to do anything.
I would also ask, whenever we get something like a plan, that goes to more than just one commissioner. I had no access to it at all until 11 o'clock this morning.
So this plan, like, at one of our prior meetings, you know, it was voted on to go out, for me to go out with this and find an architect. So this is just a basic conceptual plan, like,
Concept.
and until we get the location, really the plan is,
Well, I thought this was designed for this location.
no.
No.
This is just a concept plan,
Yes,
just
we-
to make sure
we
that.
gave them the lot size,
So like
yes.
another architectural firm had said, they offer a fit to space, which is basically what this is, like to find out if your space will fit on this location. And that's all that it is at this point, that the rooms that we need will fit. You know, and you wouldn't wanna get a space and say, actually I need more room now than, but it's just a conceptual plan. Like, this is not a final plan, until we know if we're even moving forward with a building.
The steps would be if the motion survives, or if the motion is approved, then we have a motion to survey the property. Then we would go out for an RFP for an architect to design. The commission would have to agree to a plan to have the architect design, a budget, source of funding. But none of that takes place until we approve a location.
Like the transfer station, did you approve the first plans that they sent you? Or did you have them do it over again?
I think we had them redo it a couple times.
That's what I mean, yeah.
And then the third architect screwed it up so bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's not go there.
That might not be the best example.
No.
What's the only one I know, he uses an architect.
Yeah, but
Okay.
this is just a
We'll stick
concept
with-
design. So I'm trying to do it in phases, come up with the lot. We've got a concept design that our multiple needs will fit on the lot. If the commission approves that location, then we move forward with design.
And then it would be, you know, a looking at it, seeing what people's opinions were, what needs to be added or cut or, you know.
I'm not too worried about losing a lot, honestly,
Yes.
because we have another offer on the table for $1, another location. So,
Get to it.
I just
with no
wonder,
golden handcuffs.
I just wonder if the wording of the motion is problematic because what you said was to build the public health building.
Okay.
Perhaps if you do a different motion, to approve the site of 1220 East Main as a future building location or site for a future
Except,
health department to be, the design to be determined.
Or even as a first option.
I thought that's what we did last.
No.
You have not approved the site to build it, you just bought it, you just approved to buy it.
You approve the acquisition of the property,
Okay.
subject to refund, I mean,
Yes.
and the way we wrote the contract is in the event that you don't go through with building this there, it goes back.
Okay.
So now we're taking the next.
The action that's us being requested, or that the motion is for, is just to say, yes, that's what we're gonna do with this site that we've purchased.
Yeah, and I accept the revised language. Do you
I
accept?
mean, I don't know if that's,
yes.
I accept, that's much better worded. Thank you.
And the other-
Try it again, read it to me.
okay.
I'm gonna have Tina read it.
The other location doesn't have any strings attached. It was just $1 as is.
So,
Hillsborough Hospital, is that what you're talking about?
Just a lot of renovation. And
Or tear down.
It's 60,000 square feet,
Or tear down.
not 5,000 square feet.
Demo.
A lot of bricks.
I'm writing it.
Okay.
Tina has a much better word craftsmanship than I do. You get my intent.
Mhm. Shush.
Brad, don't make it 3 pages.
He gets, how he gets paid.
Brad
By
tries
the
to
word.
Brad tries to keep it short for an attorney. He's good.
So, kind of what I had said in a nutshell would be, to approve the 1220 East Main location as a site for a future health department with specific building plan to be developed and approved by the board.
Perfect.
I would vote for that.
So,
You gotta have a plan to be approved of.
That's exactly right.
Yes.
Okay, further discussion? Everybody understands the motion?
Did you second that?
yes, I did.
Okay.
All those in favor say, oh, let's do roll call, sorry. Commissioner Becker?
Nay.
Crowfoot?
Yay.
Yeah.
Elke? Gehring?
Nay.
Mueller? Yes. Nay sounds too much like
Almost
yay.
said
Yes.
Okay, so 3 in favor, 2 against. The next motion I would make was to approve a survey of the property at 1220 East Main.
I'll second that. Do we only have one surveyor, or do you?
Who else?
I don't know either, you know, we've only used,
Well, it needs to be surveyed.
yeah.
We have to have it
I
surveyed.
mean, I think it would be, I would highly recommend that you would do a survey, but.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially before we get any further on design. Okay, so we have a motion to proceed with the survey on the property. We have a second from Commissioner Crowfoot. Discussion or questions on the survey?
Anything that you want to add to your motion in terms of a price not to exceed, you probably have no idea, and I don't either.
What'd you say?
I'm just throwing, the price not to exceed,
Oh,
The survey?
yeah.
Oh,
I think,
you can't tell them what to do.
Yeah, Tina go out and just measure it off with a tape.
Talk about handcuffs, you have, we need the survey. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
3 in favor, 2 against the survey.
Do we request a bid for architect or?
How would the commission prefer to work more on the concept before we do the architect design RFP? Because I understand there's quite a concern on the concept.
Yeah, because you just can't take those left side here and just cut them in. I mean, you just can't do that without having a good flow. I think that's what they was trying to work on here, is have a good flow, workflow.
That's what architects are expert at, designing interiors.
Well, what all are you gonna have here? Are you gonna keep, this has a drive-through, covered drive-through, you got a garage. Are you gonna send them out back with the same stuff and just tell them to rearrange it?
If you short it up, so shorten the conceptual plan, kind of did some flipping, so moving stuff into the upper left-hand corner, and maybe flipping your garage, if there is a garage, to the back. You could still have your drive-through on that side, and then drag around the back side of the building.
I don't think you can take this edge of this roof and go into setback though, I don't believe. Maybe that's the problem that I don't think you can do. This covered drive-through on the.
It doesn't count as a building.
Huh?
You can have it covered, it doesn't count.
We can't out at the, I don't know, out at the county lake you can't.
The roof, we can't go in.
You can't
It's
do
still
that.
structure. It's structure.
So I don't know what the city's code is, but you gotta have this 10-foot setback.
For your structure, yeah.
I don't think you can put anything on that. You
Which
can put
would
the
be-
right up to the line, you
Right.
can
We
go
do
that.
have, yes, we do have 10-foot setback.
Yeah, it's just set back here,
Yeah.
the back here, and then on this side is what they've got.
If you shortened,
10-foot setback
if
here.
you shortened here, and then move some of this to this corner space here, then it's still shorter, you're still within your setback, and you could drive around potentially. And then you have a rectangle building instead, which would, I guess, save costs, is what I understand.
We only have one peak to
So Brad,
Details.
would you recommend
That's right.
still working out, hammering out
Architects,
details
no.
on concept design, or going to the architect?
I wouldn't look
Where
at
we
the
are with multiple opinions.
The way it sounds, I'd probably start to look at that architect in terms of trying to figure out what you want to do.
So you would go directly to the architect?
I mean, it's, in some ways, it seems more practical at this point, given what I'm hearing, but that may not be correct. Conceptually.
Well, they need to come
yes.
in and listen to us.
You wanna scare them off on day one?
There goes the bid.
Well, I just think that the garage, I think you can still have a garage. It may not be a double wide, you could have a short, narrower all the way through the back, to where if you ever have to have what we did in Hillsborough, you could,
Tell you got a budget and go to the architect and say, we got $1 million for the whole project, and we got this. You aren't gonna get any changes other than, he's just gonna move stuff around.
Well, Randy had a pretty good idea, you know. Even though I vote no on something, I'd still rather see the final product good.
yes.
Sure.
The, taking the drive-through and making your garage
Especially
along the backside of the building.
This is the lot, you know, the other thing about.
Yeah, double door garage, so you can drive through the garage, and then all of a sudden, when you're not using it for drive-through, you park the vehicles in there.
Most of the time.
And then when
Most
you
of
are
the time,
using it for
yes.
drive-through service, you pull the vehicles out, park them
Yeah.
in.
Mhm. I just,
I mean, you can get both concepts out of that one
function, function.
piece of roof.
Yeah.
But they get
Krista, on.
curbside service all week long. Don't you get somebody every day?
I mean, if you were to use it to, like, let's say they were coming to pick up your waste, like you did at moving your vehicle a bunch, like, you know, if it was flu season, multiple times a day you'd be using that drive-through, depending on, or if it was somebody coming to pick up your shredded and you have that stored in your dirty utility, like. But I know that we're not really to that point either, so.
Well, no.
Well, I'm just saying, trying to Yeah, it's an inconvenience,
Yes.
but it's an inconvenience where you save dollars, so. You still have a garage, but every morning you go get in a vehicle,
Yeah.
take it out, park it out. Looks like hail, pull it back in.
Do you have one or two vehicles?
We have one Ford Explorer, that's the health department's, and we currently have 2 trailers, and that's another item I was gonna bring up today on the agenda.
I see that's on the agenda.
But we were trying to get down to 1 trailer.
Well,
And
with the
it's-
extra storage, you would be able to, right? Or just get rid of both trailers and get a larger one.
The car pull it in.
Explorer should pull it. Has it got a V6?
I know
Krista, the conceptual plan that you've gotten so far, that was done by an architect?
That was done by an architect, yes.
that he's retired, he didn't want to go any farther.
Oh,
He doesn't want the full job, but he's willing to help her with the concept. So
that's what I was gonna ask. If he now knows, okay, the second step of this has been at least moved ahead or moved down the field a little bit in terms of this is the site, this is its general dimensions. Would he be able to fit the concept to that, so at least you're getting that far? It doesn't necessarily mean that's gonna be the end plan, but you would at least have, okay, these are the basic features we really would still wanna have in it. It would fit on here as follows.
Potentially, I mean, I wouldn't know unless I asked, but potentially. I mean,
It
he
feels like-
moved it around, like the first one he sent back to me, I was like, oh, the logistics of that doesn't work, or.
Yeah.
And so then I had him go back and do it, or not do it again, but move
So
some
far,
things
he's
around.
got something that fits your wish list. Now that wish list needs to be melded to whatever the site is, and the site so far appears to be, this is what we're picking, 3-2 vote, but can you take this and at least use your expertise to plant it on here and see what can be done, and then the red X element of it comes after that.
Yeah, I will contact Randall Steiner and see if he would be willing to, of course, that would be at a charge.
Probably a lesser charge than somebody who's gonna try to,
Starting,
because you're right, we don't have budget. I mean, and so he's gonna be sitting there, well, how much you wanna spend, because I can make different things occur here. I've been through that. But if he can start from that, at least gets you far enough along to go, okay, conceptually, this is what we're trying to include in this
Take
is
that
what
to
the
the
department
architect.
wants, this is where we are. Now let's see if we can fit it on the site, then go, okay, now what's that gonna cost? I don't know how else you're gonna get there.
Right.
Yeah, but, the guy doing this school project said he would be interested in looking at it. Greg Tice.
Yeah.
Who's a local boy.
Yeah.
School's getting ready to build a dressing room and concession stand.
But it'd just be nice to go with him with at least a concept that 3 commissioners agree on in the health department.
Yeah, I can reach out to him if that's the consensus and see if he will.
But 60 by 60 buildings, 3,600 square feet, 60 by 70, figure that too.
42.
42, okay, yeah, so that easy. I mean, so.
$200 a square foot.
You come into that rectangular shape, and whether you put a vestibule on for the front or something to that facade, and you may still have a side deal there too, but I'm just saying, there's some ways to get a little, I don't know that we need 5,600 square feet.
Okay.
I'd like to see it down to somewhere between 4,000. Cut the garage. I don't know, the garage is sort of the main goal too, to have a drive-through deal where they don't have to leave if we ever have a epidemic again or whatever we may have to. Or how many times you use it for flu shots too.
For any vaccine.
Or any
yeah.
vaccines, okay.
Yeah, people come up and get
Whether
tested
it's
for COVID and stuff.
shingles or influenza or predominantly with the elderly population or disabled.
I tell you what, how about next week, the 24th, the agenda, looks like there's a fair amount of time. How about we continue the actual building discussion to next week? That'll give commissioners a chance. Do you have a copy of the plan? Okay, Krista, can you give Commissioner Becker a copy?
Yeah. Here is. Does everyone?
He's got a bunch.
Same?
Yeah.
It's same, just
We
small.
Keep that,
This one?
yeah. Bring some.
Would you mind if I have one to just keep this in record?
15, here's a.
Give them to Brad. Brad needs a copy.
I wouldn't mind having some of this as well.
Yes, yes.
I mean, actually, the bigger one.
So
I have
let's hold off on
good
the
cross things
concept till
off.
we meet next week.
Okay.
You can be able to read
Reach
what it
out and
says.
ask if you
Yeah,
want
that's,
to do
that's
that.
what, that's true.
We'll meet next week and hammer out, we'll get a commission consensus on a footprint conceptual plan next week.
So prior to next week, reach out to architect, see if he can create.
Just to see if he'd be willing to
If
do
he'd
that.
be willing.
But you don't have the information until the 24th.
Okay,
That'll give the commission a chance to review the plans, review the information, and then next week we'll hopefully come to some type of agreement on square footage, budget.
okay, yeah.
Ballpark, get the ball
Yep.
rolling in.
I guess I don't wanna ask too much, but see if we can at least have a drive around the building. All the way around the building to be accessible to the building from all sides.
I want to have one comment on that, from doing the parking and trying to get people just go on a straight line when we get shots over fairgrounds. Do you want old people doing 2 left-hand turns around the building?
I'm just,
Put pipe bollards in the corners.
Huh?
Pipe bollards.
I know.
Extra $100 is cheap.
And a
Some
big
bubble
arrow.
Put some bubble wrap on there.
Bubble wrap.
I couldn't even get them to go in a straight line between the cones.
Yeah. Well, I got run over a couple times.
Wasn't from in.
and that may be something too, one
Just
way
trying to
around
park
the
'em.
building.
Yeah,
One way
Absolutely.
around it.
Yep.
Maybe.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, I think
you're not gonna
that
have
would-
two-way traffic.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
No.
that's- No.
Okay, let's move on to
Okay.
your next
So
topic.
the next item I have is Safe Kids Day, will be May 6th. It's at the Sports and Aquatic Center here in Marion this year. It is from 9 a.m. to noon, and it's for elementary school age children and younger. We'll have multiple safety topics and lots of devices to provide to families free of charge. And so I have I guess an official invitation for everyone here, and I'll just pass that along.
The attendance seems to grow every year, doesn't it?
Well, last year was our very first year.
Oh,
We had that
okay.
at the fairgrounds.
I guess I was thinking of the
Yeah, I said
other
something
one.
else.
What was the other one? What's the
Health
other
plan,
one?
health plan.
There you go.
Health fair.
Yeah, well, that
So we
one
had-
grows every year.
We had approximately
That's a good one.
150 children last year.
Okay.
And we will distribute these flyers to every school-age child in the county. So we will send those home through the schools.
Excellent.
And my next topic is about the other trailer,
Mhm.
so the Safe Kids trailer. We are aware that the Marion Fire Chiefs Association has purchased a firehouse, like a firehouse simulator, and we have a trailer that we have not been using, that's been taking up space and sitting out in the sun. And we would like to see about donating the trailer to, if, I don't know, depending on how if you have to be a 501c3 or if it has to be a specific group. I know the Marion Fire Chief, or Marion
It's a tax
Fire
entity.
Department has been in discussion with the Fire Chiefs Association, and it would be to house that inflatable. But we received it as under our Safe Kids grant back in 2007. And the elections clerk did spend, it looked like, according to the minutes, $390 towards the purchase of that trailer in 2007. But we
Cheap then.
have not been using this trailer and would like to donate it to them for,
But Tina, it has to go to an entity, right?
Yeah, I mean, the county can't just,
Right.
yeah, it would have to be another governmental agency
Yes.
or a nonprofit that's officially set up to be able to do that.
Which Fire Chiefs Association does
So it'd
not
be-
qualify, but a fire department would qualify.
Marion Fire Department had meeting with, I guess, the rest of the fire departments on Friday. And it sounded like that was the consensus and that they would be the one.
If they
that
house
would-
it,
Right,
it won't be
that would
our-
take over the insurance title, if that's what was chosen to do. I did get email confirmation, since anything purchased through a grant, you have to have approval if you were to donate it, and we did receive that from Safe Kids Kansas.
So we have 2 trailers?
We do. We have
Okay.
a Safe Kids trailer, and we have a public health emergency preparedness trailer.
Which one's the best?
The public health emergency preparedness trailer.
You're keeping the most,
Yeah.
the one that fits you best.
It's
Yes.
25 years newer.
I mean, I don't wanna give a large one away and then you come back
Right.
2 years from now, oh, I need a larger trailer.
They're both about the same size, but the one is newer and is in better condition, the theft trailer, and so we would like to keep that one.
Yeah, good, yeah, good question.
One that Randy used last year, the all COVID stuff. The help loaded at the end.
You're not talking about the command trailer?
No,
Okay.
the little white trailer.
Okay, right.
Okay, so Tina, we need an action to approve the transfer of the trailer from Health Department to Marion Fire Department. Is that correct?
And do we need them to actually?
I should probably do it as a resolution since we're doing transfer of property.
It's a resolution.
I've never done it, so.
Yeah,
I mean, you tell us.
Now, we may be going
How
to,
should we do this, Tina?
we'd be going to a department, but it's used for the whole county, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Do we need some sort of an agreement?
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
for
so
housing.
a resolution or separate agreement. that you-
Otherwise, we would want to talk.
Smokehouse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
otherwise we want to talk to other departments, but.
Correct, yeah.
Since it's for housing, this specific thing.
Yeah, and I
don't
just
think-
wanna make sure all departments are
Yes.
accessible to it.
And
they're-
they've already talked about it.
Their hopes are to have the smokehouse or firehouse, they're hoping to have it by May 4th, so we can use it for the Safe Kids event.
Oh, cool.
And I believe they have to go to Dallas, Texas to pick it up, is my understanding.
Then they'd have a trailer to pick it up.
So,
Show
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So make sure tires are ready to go.
So do we need to wait for an agreement or?
Yes.
Okay, so
Resolution.
we'll do the
Check the
resolution next week.
Okay.
Do that.
Is there opposition from commission? If not, Krista can contact and say, we've got commission of consensus, we just don't have, we'll have approval next week, a formal approval next week.
They can sort of check it out.
I have no problems, it's gonna be a countywide
Yeah,
thing.
for countywide use. It was just, we couldn't give it to the Chiefs Association.
Did the
We have to give
Peabody
it
Fire Department buy it or
to
something?
an entity.
Krista, if you've got a description of that trailer that we carry on our insurance or something.
Yeah, I'll contact
Just email it.
Jess and.
Yeah, okay.
Wind farms pay for that?
Yeah.
What?
And they go to Marion Fire. Yes.
Wind farms pay for that?
Yeah, and I don't know if there's a way to
Yeah.
write in that.
We pay for it
we
when we
use for
reimburse.
the county, you
Yeah,
know,
so
house.
no fire department, but it's ownership.
And that's all I have today.
Oh, come on.
I'm getting out of here.
Well, at least you spent more time in the room than waiting, because you waited a long time. Thank you, Krista.
Thank you.
Okay, catching up on the agenda, Road and Bridge, Bryce is not here, but he sent in an email report. Do we need to read that, or just note that it was submitted? I'm looking to my right.
Oh, you're looking to me? Okay.
I'm looking to either.
I don't know that you would have to.
Read it.
I'll just
No,
reference.
Just acknowledge that it was received.
Thank you.
Just
I was
incorporate it in
going
the
to assign
minutes.
you to read it. We did receive an email report from Bryce on the activities. He had another commitment today. Yes.
I would like to thank Bryce for sending that, and I think we need to visit with him, and we need that kind of a report a little more often, because it was very informational, very good.
Okay.
And I think that's one way that we can find out what's, so that we know what's happening.
Yep. Phyllis, did you have access to that? Okay. Can you give me your email address and I'll send it to you?
Or she can, if she wants it, she can just ask me for it and I'll send it to her.
Okay, very good. I just want to make sure you got a copy.
Yeah, just send it.
What?
Yes, if you want to send it.
Brad,
Okay.
you brought a big folder today.
Yeah, and I try to keep it to like 6 items if I can. One, and I try to do this without making Phyllis walk in and out after time. With regard to Buller, the agreement is not quite finalized. I checked with legal counsel this morning. He should have it in a day or two, and then I'm going to distribute that to you. It will probably be a privileged form of communication because it is not fully approved yet. It's still part of the negotiation process on that litigation. On the bridge at 350th, status on that, we have a claim number. It has been turned into the insurance carrier for the property owner. They have acknowledged receipt, assigned this claim number to it, acknowledged that they will be honoring the claim, and then proceeding in terms of what we come up with. I've talked with Bryce at some length about a format for periodic advancement of structural stability and everything that we're doing, and tracing all elements of the cost, from materials to the labor element of it to anything else. Also tracking the amount of time that the citizens are without the use of the bridge. That's something that doesn't always get considered, but there's an element of that as well. So that's all in place right now and going forward. I didn't know if Bryce was going to be here today.
Is there an element to determine, since that's not going back to, that's going to stay a 5-ton bridge, is there a way to determine the economic impact of that?
The answer to that, based on, and it's a question I've already started asking, yes, there is. It's as much
I know it's kind of shot in the dark, but it's
the best way I can say it, it's as much art as it is science in some ways. Because we don't have now.
Well, if we had traffic counts.
Yeah, and we don't have a traffic
on a
study.
road like that, they're going to have one.
But the account to help your insurance on that one.
But the amount of heavy
yes.
equipment, that type of stuff.
Now during harvest,
It's not going to use it anymore.
Yeah.
during harvest, that'd be a good time to have traffic count. Or
It
hay
would.
season.
It's moving from the 5-ton or 13 to 5 has an impact.
Yeah.
And I raised that. Called several of the firms in Wichita that deal with that sort of thing. They said, "Oh yeah, we can always come up with a number." Is it a defensible number? I mean, is this something somebody can debate? They said, "Well, we can debate anything." Kind of a typical lawyer answer to their lawyer.
But it's a question that needs to be asked.
And so that part of it we're dealing with. The fence thing, I think we exhausted most of the things that I wanted to talk about with the chief today.
While you're on that, Krista did bring up in the hallway, she has concerns with dog packs and dog bites.
Okay.
And that sort of dovetails into
Same
the
thing,
livestock.
okay.
I know looking at the Dickinson County policy, 5 pages of it was about
Yes.
dogs and rabies, and that is an issue in the county. I mean, if it can be incorporated without slowing down the process, again, I don't want to slow it down. Okay, I'll shut up and just.
No, I'm fine. I was like that. That's like the ones that come in and say, "I just need a simple contract. I only want it on one page, but it needs to cover everything."
I know.
Yeah.
Sorry, but it's the Dickinson County policy.
Yeah, well,
5 pages.
I just need it.
Yeah,
Just.
yeah, that's
Just.
usually just.
All right, focus on the fence and cattle. We'll deal with the dogs later.
Just.
Put it on the side.
Then the other element, I think this one doesn't require executive. The Starks case in terms of ongoing discovery, Tina and I were talking about that before, based upon their current requests and what Corey Buck, our legal counsel, had discussed with me. there is the potential for a tremendous amount of redaction and going through personnel files that I think we're going to try to avoid. But I'm going to have to call him, and probably the three of us are going to need to get on the phone and discuss that a bit to winnow down what's going to be required, because the amount of time it would take to do what they're generally requesting right now is unreasonable, and I don't think it's required for what they're actually needing in the way of a realistic discovery. But I'm going to let him weigh in on that. So that's going forward as well. And then we do need one executive session for the other items that I have, and they will deal with potential litigation.
Okay, how long?
I think I can cover what we need in 10 minutes.
Are we ready?
Yes.
I move that we recess into executive session in order to discuss potential litigation pursuant to KSA 75-4319B. Item 2, consultation with our attorney-client privilege. With the commission, Brad Tina for 10 minutes, 3:06 to 3:16. Second by Commissioner Becker. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. We'll be back at 3:16. And I always forget, with open session to resume back in this room following the closed session. I don't know why I don't put that tag on.
If there's anything we need to do that I'm not aware of.
This conference will now be recorded.
Out of executive session, no decisions made. All right, thank you, Brad. Covered a lot of ground today. And gave you a lot more to do. I think you would got more than when you came in.
Yeah, actually, I think that's true.
Okay. So at this point, I think we're ready to go back to administrative.
Okay.
Take a long road to get there.
Yeah.
In your packet, you had a public notice about a KDHE project.
Yes.
Okay.
Any questions on the notice?
Let me find all my papers now. I think I buried them. Okay. I do have the minutes of April 10th.
Okay, any additions or corrections to April 10th minutes? If not, is there a motion to approve? Motion by Commissioner Galkey, is there a second? Second by Commissioner Garing. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried 5-0.
We do have some early checks. That information was in your packet.
Make a motion to approve the other checks in the amount of $614.80.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Crowfoot. Any questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried 5-0.
Okay, I do have a couple of salary sheets.
Okay. Still can't clear my throat. Salary change for Nicole Reed in the appraiser's office from $4,846 a month to $5,257 per month, effective March 27th, per contract and board approval of accelerated date for Board of County Commission minutes dated 3/27. And dispatch department, Anastasia Leroy, $18.67 an hour, effective April 1st, change from full-time to part-time dispatcher, no change in wage.
We do have our next report due to Treasury on our ARPA funds. And so that report is in your packets. I do need official approval from the board and a signature from the chairman. And then I will submit that report in line.
Okay, so moved. A motion by Commissioner Garing to approve the American Rescue Plan Funds report. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Becker. Questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried 5-0.
Refunds to the county.
Sign in the yellow.
Yellow box, yellow box.
That
means
bright
warning.
yellow, that bright yellow space. Oops. All right, in your packet, I also included just kind of my spreadsheet of what the board has done so far with the ARPA funding. So there are some differences between this report that I'm submitting and my report, but that is, the administrative is not taken out of this, and also the interest is not included in this. So basically, our interest is just about probably gonna cover the balance of our administrative fee. So that's, we've been doing pretty well with that.
I appreciate the
Anyway,
summary. It's-
just trying to give you the amount that we've received, the amount of interest we've gotten, and then what you have approved in the past, so. Just so you would have that.
Any questions for Tina? Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think. Did you have any action from your
Yes.
executive session earlier?
Yes.
Okay, I don't have any other administrative business.
Okay, we're finished with administrative. I would move to offer position on Department of Aging Director. Do I give the name?
Yep.
Yes, to Lou Turk. We interviewed her earlier today and believe she'll be a good fit for the Department of Aging. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Garing. Other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried 5-0. We welcome Lou into the Department of Aging Director position. Lou Turk. Okay, is that it for administrative? Any progress on Planning Commission member, District 3?
No, not yet.
Okay. Couple things I'd like to add. We'll go into commissioner comments. I went to Dickinson County commission meeting last week. One thing I noticed they do that would be helpful for us, each of us serves on another advisory board on behalf of the commission. And I think it'd be nice if maybe once a quarter or twice a year, give the commission an update on what your board's doing or what's going on. Because I think some of it would be really interesting to the rest of us. So this week, Wednesday, I have a North Central Kansas Juvenile Detention Facility meeting. And Thursday, 8th Judicial District Correctional Advisory Board meeting. So next week I'll give updates on those two. And then as commissioners would like to give updates on theirs, we'll schedule them in the agenda.
I think I'll have a scheduled meeting the 27th.
Okay.
So, solid waste, it's 27th.
Oh, we'll do both of them next month.
Yeah, that's pretty short and sweet.
They're pretty quiet?
Not much changes since the whole system's been ironed out.
It's kind of like Prairie View didn't do much at their meetings.
Just obligated to have them. There's no new business, so it's.
That's usually solid waste, you said. Well, I intend to talk for at least an hour on my team.
Yours is a whole lot more exciting than mine.
I can't. Do they have one meeting a year, or is it more than that? Solid waste, 2 meetings a year?
2, I think. I don't know, I'm glad I don't have a lot of time for it, but.
Ours are interesting, yeah. And then, as yours come up, let us know. And we'll
Yeah,
get on
it's
it.
just Prairie View, they don't say much.
I also serve on soil conservation.
Oh, good.
You know, those are not set meetings, and they're
Yeah.
mostly, we get invited to when they have a special
Sorry, I was
presentation.
muted.
Okay. Yeah. And they do an annual presentation.
And then
They
Brandy,
do,
I just
yeah.
was telling Christie that this will be the intern section, and then I will turn it.
He's got to go to another meeting.
As we go into the regular meeting, you know, we'll show all up on the screen.
We do it a Zoom?
Yeah, I was trying to keep it quiet here, but I don't know how to do that yet.
Go in your lower right corner and get that speaker.
There's a microphone right there.
Okay, so it'll be on the agenda for next week, and then
No.
Kent and Jonah for the following week.
Randy, put your cursor up
Any
in
other
the right-hand
comments?
corner
I
of
have
your,
a comment.
of
Whatever
the screen
Randy
that
does.
shows
It
you,
might be a law.
and there will be a mute button come up.
Well, we can't talk to you?
We're in a commission meeting, I'm trying to keep it quiet here, because we're trying to finish up.
It's a mute button.
I can mute you.
Yeah, that's a good
But
idea.
you have to unmute yourself, Randy.
Okay, hang on a second here.
Okay.
Let's go over here. Do this one
Are
first.
you multitasking?
So don't, you really
Killed your speaker first.
Wait a minute here.
Now,
It's muted.
Now we
gotta find the mic and mute.
like the mute.
see, we tried that one, this comes up. That's, microphone is on, so you want to turn it off.
Now, where's your program that you get your Zoom meeting on?
I thought I minimized it. Is it down here?
Okay. Right here, these 3 dots.
Yes, yes, it's the same 3 up there.
This one is solid on this.
Yeah, we already got you muted.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
They got it.
That's a good back on. If we get back on, if you want to talk.
But yeah, you're gonna have to raise your
Yeah, volume.
volume up.
Significantly so.
Only thing I've ever used is this one.
I understand. I'm kind of the same way.
Can't hear anybody.
That's a,
Well, they muted mic. They've been muted. They're
then it's
muted.
up to you, I guess, that I.
They see the little red.
Bring that up, that
They
it-
should be
that
starting
it's
the meeting.
Submitted, I'll assign the time, everybody can decide. if they want to.
Okay, let's do it rather than just.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay, I think we have Commissioner Dalkey muted now, is that right?
Yeah.
You have the floor, Commissioner.
Had a call from a taxpayer in regard to what is called a 30-30 program. It is a worldwide agenda to protect our land and water. 30% of the land, 30% of the water be protected by 2030.
From a couple of years ago.
It was adopted by the Biden administration on January 27th of 2021. A lot of private landowners are starting to get a little bit nervous about it, as this is being utilized on an eminent domain in southeast Kansas, which involves about, have you heard, 34,000 acres on a transmission line from Wolf Creek out of the state, which is not a lease, it's actually a land take by the electric company. This, now I don't have anything to follow up on, but this taxpayer said, I've understood in Kansas there's been a few county commissions that have adopted resolutions to try to protect that. I guess my question to you is, if we had a resolution like that to protect our land, could it just be superseded by something from the federal government?
Yes, and it depends, it's very much like interstate commerce. If it is a federally usurped authority to protect nationwide certain things, then they can easily fit that in. So far, we've been debating this in different settings at the state level, and is that doable? And the answer is yeah, they can, or at least they feel they can. Department of Justice has said, yeah, you can.
So a resolution would just be a show of support for our private landowners?
And it at least gives us the, I mean, it is better than nothing, because in those circumstances, that means someone still has to get around it. Can they, like your question earlier? Yeah, I think they can. But do they have to, would they have to work at it?
Yeah.
A little bit.
They'll go after the ones that don't have it first.
Yeah. And it amounts to a taking, like that 34,000 acres. And what they're doing in those circumstances, supposedly for the public good, and you get these quasi-public utilities, and they're saying, we gotta have it. Oh, well.
Why can't they just lease it?
Yeah, they could. But they're looking for more permanency is how it's worded. So, well, you can do a 99-year lease, well, 90 years in Kansas without violating rule against perpetuities.
Your transmission line wouldn't last that long anyway.
Yeah.
Just be a lease.
I'm just curious if that, at some point, is that something that the county commission would support just as a matter of showing our concern for private landowner rights?
So they just take a strip of land?
Huh?
Well, it depends on what it is.
For a transmission line?
Yeah, in those circumstances, it's a heck of a lot more than a strip of land.
It's about 3 counties.
Yeah.
Because it runs from Wolf Creek going southeast.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a quarter mile wide and.
Well, I don't know if it's that wide, but it's miles long.
Yeah. And in some areas, they spread it out depending upon what it is they feel they need for ingress, egress, and the ability to go ahead and put a laydown yard and all of that kind of stuff. If you read the proposal and what the concept is, it's kind of like when the railroad did it many years ago. It's supposed to be, you got a set of tracks and you got 100 feet on either side of a center line. Well, how did they end up owning so many sections?
Even in Marion County.
Yeah. So the short form answer is that in theory that's what it's supposed to be, but that's not.
Anyway, it's a concern that I don't think a lot of people know about, or they haven't
researched it,
delved into it.
I've heard it multiple times.
Yeah, it made the news for about 2 days on the 30/30.
A couple of years ago, it was.
Yeah.
There is going to be a large gathering meeting in Newton on May 1st to discuss some of this. But I was just, I kept thinking, okay, if the county adopts a resolution, is it just basically a show of support because the federal government's going to do what they want to do?
At the very least it is, and then it will depend upon how the rulings go in these, because they're still going to have to, states' rights are such that you're going to butt up against it.
Constitutionally, were land rights given to the states?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I interpret the Constitution to say. So if you're getting superseded by the federal government, isn't that a...
Again, the states' rights element of it become subject to challenge if it is a broader interest, like interstate commerce, if you've got railroads that go from state to state to state to state, and you want to be able to regulate width and everything else that was done in them and safety factors, okay, well now the federal government needs to step in and do this for uniformity's sake. A lot of this 30-30, that's not how as I read it, how it was conceptually set up. It was, but again, it was set up for the broader good.
It all came out of climate change.
Yeah, and what they wanted to do was nationally we have to attack this because there's not necessarily the same will in every state, and it won't have the same level of uniformity. You look at California's laws versus ours, there's a dramatic difference in terms of what pollution controls are. And so that's where the logic comes in that, well, we have to do this at the federal level.
Dictator move.
Commissioner Chairman, you just asked what our committees do. This is Harvey County CDDO. They're in Hillsborough Tabor College right now with the program that you was at, Kent, before with the kids over there that put the program on. Tina's daughter was there with this instructor. He's been there quite a few years, and that's what we support doing this program.
Yeah,
So
they're giving their project.
giving their projects right now. So anyway, that's sort of neat. You asked that question.
That's why I want to give more detail.
I serve as a mentor. I serve as a mentor on there.
Yes.
Those kids cycle through all of the departments at Tabor, you know, and learn different skills and what they like, and that kind of thing.
See, those are important committees to me. Need to get
This instructor over there at Tabor, he really likes the kids, is what I get.
Good. Very good. Okay, before we adjourn, we did have a public comment after public comment section.
You want a resolution? You want to move forward with that?
That would be up to the commission if they support it.
I think we'll at least say we're not,
I mean,
not okay with them taking in people's ground.
Somebody read it?
Well, this came in after you closed public
So,
comments,
did
so
the
if you're
commission-
opening public comments again, just you're
Would
wondering.
the commission want to take the public comment?
It was a public comment in the beginning, I guess.
So,
And now it's public comment at the end, so.
yeah, well, I'd say we take it.
Okay,
I just can't read it.
I gotcha. So this was from Jerry. It just said Jerry. This is what I had to say because I did not hear the request, and at 12:30 when I signed on, I immediately heard the request for a break. I would like to inquire about the process of the Alney Road progress. I have looked back at the last few meetings but cannot find any updates. Maybe I missed them. With the weather trending to warmer temperatures, I'm wondering when discussions would begin about the completion of the road and what that time frame would be. This information will also be helpful with my property evaluation increase protest. I do want to address I think it's supposed to be a disappointing issue we ran into this weekend. As you know, it was prom weekend and there was an inconvenience that put a damper on the excitement. One of my children had to take their car into town to wash their vehicle and leave it there to go back and get dressed and then get driven back to the vehicle. This was because if it were washed at home and then driven on the Alney Road, the washing would have been a waste of time. One child chose to wash their car in town in their formal attire. Some have said that is the price you pay for living on a gravel road. While I don't disagree, I would say that when I purchased my home, it was not on a patch of gravel road. It was asphalted all the way to Sunflower. It was something that could have been avoided if the road was not in this condition.
Okay, heard the public comment. If there's anything else? Not, I move to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Becker. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried 5-0. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.